Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, the official podcast of GRAPPL. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
Just the two of us here this week. We've just wrapped up the Patreon, kicking off December pre-show with Matty there, Matty, JP, talking top 3 desserts, me ripping off Just Eat, Scran of the Week, the death of physical media, which Matty gave its proper business, Spotify Unwrapped, all kinds. Arsenal's currently at a 3-3 draw that you've sacrificed to join us here on the show, mate. We're going to get the live scores coming through teletext style. It's all going off as we kick off December here.
And for long-term listeners, they know normally if something happens with Arsenal, there is just quite a loud shout that will end up taking place at some point during the proceedings to liven up what is really quite a light on the ground week in the world of professional wrestling. If we are brutally honest. Yeah.
I was looking at this, we had the going as far back as we had the Crown Jewel review that went into the AEW, kind of intervention show we did with Gareth, where we looked at the state of AEW. Then there was an AEW pay-per-view. Then there was another WWE pay-per-view in there. Now this week, I don't know, CM Punk's doing some stuff. Wembley's coming up. We're back to playing the hits this week. Luckily, the rest of December isn't this quiet because it doesn't last very long before fucking World's End will be upon us, and then Wrestle Kingdom will be upon us, and then I think it's the Royal Rumble not long after that, mate. So not really much rest for the wicked, but definitely the quiet spot right now, depending on what breaks while we're on here.
Yeah, the calm before the storm, before we end up in Newcastle this weekend. But don't worry,
that's a big one, Newcastle. Yeah, on Saturday.
We've got that coming up there on Saturday. We'll obviously be there in the flesh, in the physical, almost, which is obviously a big part of the pre-show. And as what people will see behind me in terms of the death of Colosseum home video, or Silver Vision as it's properly should be called.
Well, that's definitely how we're kicking off the old month with the patrons. It is December's always a massive month for us over here on GRAPPL. So just bear with us. Well, it's the start of a new month. Might as well throw the plugs in early. It's all kicking off. We'll be in Newcastle at the weekend with JP. There's a million things going on. It's always one of the bigger weekends, bigger months of the year for us when it comes to content. The GRAPPL Awards are going to be coming up this month, as well as the Patreon specific Crappy Awards that we'll have in there as well, of course, for YouTube members too. Christmas Film Club, the North Wrestling Trip. We'll be doing our Ask GRAPPL call-in show. Basically all of the content. So if it's quiet now, there's a fucking lot coming up in December. What are you looking forward to, JP? What are you looking to getting into? It doesn't feel like Christmas if we don't just do a million podcasts. I've had a Christmas week. I'm doing a couple of guest spots as well. I think I've got about 5 podcasts in Monday to Friday up until the Christmas Eve at the weekend.
Oh my word! Well, fair play to you for that. I mean, that's it's going to be it's just going to be such an absolutely cracking month. The thing I have to say that I'm kind of most looking forward to, because there's also an actual physical present in it for me, and that's the Observe This Power Slam 1994 special, because of the brilliant yearbook that they're doing. I can't wait for that. That is just going to be cracking content.
Have you got your physical copy yet? You just talking about physical media. Have you got your physical Power Slam?
It has been shipped according to the shop app, so I'm waiting for it to turn up. There was a load of magazines I found out when I was emptying out the loft on Sunday. So it's okay, these are going to form, hopefully, some, if nothing else, after all of these years, some bloody good podcast content. And 1994, mate, it's your era. It's the new generation era as well. It's going to be fascinating to see what the take was at that point in time, particularly what Stately Wayne Manor thinks. And that good. Oh yeah,
I hope he's around in '94. We're going to be gutted if he's not. I to be honest, I don't know if '94 is my era, because that was that period I always talk about when the kids in school had stopped watching it, and to be able, we didn't have Sky at home, so it went from everyone in school having tapes and going around to whoever's house, and there'd be some form of wrestling on in 1992 and into 1993 until into that proper death spot. So it is a bit of a blind spot for me. 1994. I think we got Sky late stage '95, which might explain my my big Sean fandom. That kind of links in there definitely. But for me, it's it's a bit of a blind spot, and also before I think because I think Power Slam, as we'll probably talk about on the show, is why I became a Smart fan. It was probably, for most people in this country, was the introduction to the, you know, the background workings and stuff like that. And let's all be honest, as much as we love Finn Martin, a lot of Dave Meltzer's work reprinted and Wade Keller's work reprinted, but on magazine shelves in WH Smith. But it was definitely like, it was 97 before I started reading it. So, like, as much as this is going to be like nostalgic going back and like say that it's inside the ropes that are putting the yearbook out, so that's what we're going to be be looking at on this Observe This show. You know, just to make a change, you know, instead of dusting off at a copy of the Observer, we'll look at the world through Finn Martin's eyes. But I think on the one hand it'll be nostalgic for me because of that, but then on the other hand it'll be like, yeah, I don't think I'll have read any of these that are in the 94 yearbook that they're putting out.
You're going to be absolutely lovely, because I was there from the beginning. This was like, as someone who was just at that point of discovering, I kind of suppose, having like, feeling like there was some idea of the inner workings of wrestling and having like kind of an insight, Power Slam was absolutely crucial. And you mentioned, it's just like, it being in like WH Smith's is the equivalent of being on like prime time TV in like the UK. It was like, you know, that was the daddy of the news agents. It was a serious shop, WH Smith. Still around today, manages to somehow still survive in its all various incarnations. But it was a massive deal. And your news agent stocked it in the era of Mazak. You know, talking loads about like physical media and the rest of it. Like, this was like the prime examples in terms of magazines, because you speak to younger people and they just don't consume them. It's not part of it. But this is how we learn. And that monthly, like, was it last Thursday in the month that it would come out?
I think that sounds right, yeah. Because I used to have like I don't think my news agent would stock it, but they put like a little order in for me. Like, there came a point where I was getting like WWF magazine, WCW magazine, Power Slam, and I was probably getting like the Insider or the Wrestler or one of the PWI knockoff ones delivered there as well. And it'd be like the Saturday when I had my pocket money, I'd go and collect it. Like, but yeah, honestly, it was massive part of my fandom getting that and being able to like see the inner workings and stuff. And I always say it, like, I feel like when we talk about wrestling, I still think it now. There's certain words I say when I'm talking about wrestling, or certain ways I think about it. I think it's because I've got that Finn Martin voice in my head, because I read him for so long, and you kind of get indoctrinated a little bit with his opinions. I feel like he went off the deep end a little bit later on when he just decided John Cena was the worst human in the history of humankind, and it was like, you do like the PS50 and it'd be like Cena would have like a great year and he wouldn't be anywhere near it, you know what I mean? He had his favorites, he had these people he hated, but like at a point it meant so much, that PS50. I'm glad that, you know, obviously the FSM 50 and, you know, Alan and Brian and all those guys kind of kept that going as well. But it's like even going to that stuff, that was a massive part of fandom, waiting for that edition to come out each year and get to see that. Or like, remember the little booklets they put with it, like the little like, there was a couple of times ones where it was just like literally I remember it was like an attached booklet to the side of Power Slam, and it was just all the wrestlers' real names. So when we do like Observe This, usually we're laughing at Dave Meltzer putting in brackets Richard Morgan Flair when it's Ric Flair or Michael Hickenbottom. Where did I first learn all those names? One of those little booklets that Finn Martin attached to Power Slam, you know? It's massive.
And if they wanted to flog a few more copies, like one of the valets, that's what they'd have, and managers.
Yeah, I remember like Francine maybe being on the back of that. I do actually remember that, yeah.
Just like a Women of Wrestling thing. And it just, you know, shift numbers, wouldn't it, at that point in time? But it was, they would have that stuff on. I mean, it played such an integral part as well, because it kind of, the thing about it is I don't do any tape trading if it's not through this. That was the thing. It was like Rob Butcher and just being mentioned in the back of the magazine, and tape trading, and that just being like, when I was like earning my own money, it was like, right, I'm going to buy myself some videotapes. Let's get that IWA King of the Death matches. And then you watched it and convinced yourself it was good, when really you had wasted 3 odd hours of your life watching a 17th generation videotape copy. But like, that's the stuff he got introduced. You know, there's the readers pages. That's going to be a giggle to go through in there as well. And like you said about your brother as well, being able to kind of get those comments off Finn Martin as well, knowing exactly the thing to kind of write in about, knowing that you
just say John Cena's crap. He'll agree with you.
But when we met him, like, for us two, it was being stood there like pint in one hand, Finn Martin there, and turning around at you, and I'm just going, this is mental. Like, this is
You brought him over.
absolutely mental.
I was just at the bar. JP just turned the corner with some bloke came over. I was like, this is Finn. And I was like, yeah, fucking hell, I know who that is. Yeah, it was great. Got to buy him a pint. The great man. No, I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad he's leaning into the nostalgia and putting it out. Great Christmas gift. But yeah, we'll be leafing through that. I'll be trying to get you're getting the physical copy. I'm open for a digital one to our conversation in the pre-show to drop at some point this week. So I'll be grabbing that and we'll be reviewing that in the same level of detail we always do the classic observers. But yeah, we'll have the Christmas movie film club coming up in December, where we'll probably each pick one of our favorites and go through that. So it'll be fun to see what the patrons decide on that. Of course, our usual Ask GRAPPL special, where we take the calls of both the patrons and friends of the show as well. Always a messy affair, although you're a new dad again, so I don't know whether it's you're going to be on your best behaviour this year, JP. Whether we're going to quite get a JP crashing out 3 hours into it. I think those days are long behind you, I think, mate. But we'll do our best. We try and match Alvarez, but we don't go too much nuts.
That was an animal year, that one. That was my like Ric Flair in the Royal Rumble in '92, kind of like a moment for that one, and then just crashing out and burning at the end, fucking the finish. You might think of it, but yeah, no, I'll have a couple of drinks, but I won't be going like I just can't handle it these days. That's like the truth, as you'll find out. It is just one of these things where I'm just kind of not used to it as much, but I love it because it's nice and relaxed, and it doesn't feel like we've had to like kind of cram in 15 hours of wrestling in order to kind of prepare for it. It's just like we get asked some mad questions. And if it's anything like, and for those of you listening in the past will know, I mean, the Ted DiBiase question, like that is still for me like one of my just like favourite moments in all of it, because it was Mark Doyle who wrote that. It's just the most incredible question.
At some point, someone's going to ask us who's going to win a War Games match between the cast of EastEnders and the cast of Brookside. But, it is the show formerly known as Ask Rev, Joe. So Ask GRAPPL continues on it in its great name. So, yeah, that'll be taking place between Christmas and New Year. So everyone can look forward to that. And yet the spotlight before Christmas will be the annual GRAPPL Awards as we go through the best of the year. And the worst of the year will be exclusive to the Patreon. So, yeah, patreon.com/GRAPPL, or join us as a YouTube member. You can get it there. You can even, probably the perfect time of year, get a free trial on the Patreon as well. Time it right, get yourself a nice little week's free trial. You can mug off the system like I do Just Eat with me £7 voucher that they put through my door. The patrons heard about in our pre-show there. But yeah, it's going to be a lot going on. So consider coming over and joining us and supporting what we've had going on. It's been a cracking year, perfect way to end it, and hopefully we'll see a fair amount of the patrons and listeners in Newcastle at the weekend, as we are going to the North Wrestling show on Saturday, which I believe is sold out at time recording. I don't know if people can get tickets on the secondary market, but that is our King of the Mountain Carl.
Second sellout we're involved with, mate. There we go.
They knew we were coming, mate. That's what it is. It wasn't the Lycos twins. It was us that sold those tickets. We know the truth. But Carl chose that as his King of the Mountain review. So we're going to both have the night out in Newcastle and review the show, but all are welcome. So yeah, if you can still manage to get yourself a ticket somehow, come and join us in Newcastle. And if not, come and have a drink with us in the Ask GRAPPL Christmas special. And Patreon, YouTube, doors are open. And Retro's back as well. Should throw that in too. So yeah, you get the episode 2 of that before the rest of the world. So brilliant time to join up. Is that everything? I think I've covered it all.
I think so. Always want to mention like the brilliant weekend show that we end up doing, and the spotlight and the pre-show, which people have heard as well. Like just fantastic stuff. Your Monday updates as well to set up the week, the kind of tease people in. So yeah, if you're enjoying this, support us. YouTube, go to patreon.com/GRAPPL.
Dare I ask JP if is Arsenal over yet? Is it 3-3? Can we can't? Are we okay? Or we're not looking? We don't know.
There's actually still more time left on this as well. I haven't paid attention. It is still 3. There's 15 minutes left, mate. This could go any number of ways. But just to set people up for it. All I'm thinking is, at least I've got some draft team points this week, but I'll still bloody lose because it's just fucking cursed in that thing. But yeah, still 3-3.
Still drawing. Andy Ogden's going to keep us updated in the chat. But on that note, we should get into what's going on in the world of wrestling this weekend, of course. Only one place to start, JP, is as in the words of Tony Khan, we're starting 9 months early. Yes, we are. As we actually have a correction to start with this week, as far as from the weekend show. If anybody, last plug, if anybody doesn't watch the weekend show on the Patreon, you can get clips from it over on our YouTube for free. Might tempt you to join us, but in the clip that we put up on the YouTube, we were recording on Friday, JP, and all-in tickets were at the 27,000 range. Thought that was pretty impressive. A couple of hours later, WrestleTix posted an update on their Twitter where I believe it was in about the 31,000 range. I'll double check. This is the most up-to-date number, but it looks like we're now at tickets. Is it even newer than?
It's even newer than that, mate.
On Friday, it is just like they are selling way better than I think any of us suspected at this point, JP. I'll get the most latest figures. So
I can bring it up on here for us now as well. Like we are currently at the minute, and everyone should hopefully be able to see that. Yeah, 36,057 is where we're at on there. You can obviously see on the chat as well that there is the wonderful map on there. There is still some floor seats. I'm not surprised. They're bloody expensive. Set up at the moment currently for 48,000 with a big fuck off stage taking up like a whole massive section of it at the moment, but we're kind of used to that with AEW shows. But yeah, so there is 36,057 at this point. So it is saying that's up 3,000 from the last kind of update that we had seen previously. Oh, just over 2,000 actually, I should say, on that. Still very good numbers, still outpacing what we thought as well. There is still that push. It's been proven to be justifiably a good decision on this. There would have been people, and as negative as I might seem about how the company does at points in times and how it produces its TV, you can't really argue with this decision of 9 months. They're giving themselves a lot of time to sell there's still obviously a lot of tickets available. The capacity is they're aiming to beat that 81,000 tickets sold. And I'm not getting into that and that bloke from Brent Borough Council and the rest of it, because that just feels like a fucking weird rabbit hole to go down. I hope he does. I bet he's just thinking, you know what it is? We spoke about GTA 6 in the chat. It's a bit like GTA San Andreas, isn't it? With your man CJ going, oh shit, here we go again, because he's going to be getting a lot of emails from wrestling fans as well. But yeah, that's in terms of money in the bank. I think in terms of the gate, it's close up to around 4 million, which, if I remember rightly, the cost they had for hiring out the venue was $500,000. I wonder whether or not they had some kind of if there was any kind of nice deal that happened for the fact that they moved, did some stuff with the staging because of the Taylor Swift concert as well. So Wembley's going to be bloody raking it in around that point in time, isn't it? Oh, like I say, if you can get those Swifties along to that, that's where the real money is at this stage.
It's like we were talking on the weekend show, JP, when it was 10,000 less, because obviously the pre-sale was last Monday and then the general sale happened on Friday. I was already impressed at that number. Genuinely, there was a point last year. If it stopped at near 37,000, I would have been like, oh, you know what? They haven't quite filled Wembley, but pretty good for a secondary, not WWE country coming to the country for the first time. Maybe they shouldn't have run Wembley, but it was still strong. They're at that number already. It makes no. It's like we were saying on the weekend show. One, who are these people? And I think the answer is they're not people in our bubble. It's people who, I would guess, just went to Wembley last year and had a fucking great day out, and they don't spend their week to week like we do, JP, analysing the ins and outs of the AEW book. And I'm like, I had a good day at Wembley. I love to. Wembley itself, in a lot of ways, is the draw, isn't it, for a lot of people? And I would suspect it's those types of people. Connor said in the chat before, do any of us know who these people are? No, I don't know anyone really who's bought. I've seen one or two comments from our patrons who bought tickets. I think Dom was saying he bought a cheap seat, and I've heard stories like that. But it's this completely separate group, isn't it, of people who are outside of our silly little online echo chamber and absolutely exist. The types of people who get their wrestling news from elsewhere and follow AEW potentially on ITV as Matty would say, God intended. Back still living in those physical days. I'm sure they're all devastated about the loss of Silver Vision. I'm sure they've all got living rooms like your background there on the on the video version. I mean, Chris is saying in the chat here, and Steph saying the same. Could there potentially be touts? I suppose there's going to be maybe a amount of that who's looking at it and going, we could make it. But that's true of any big event, isn't it? I think Meltzer's always big on that. That like, there's always big amounts of touts, no matter what the show is. I guess we'll see if there's an extremely cheap secondary market, whether they all end up taking a bath on it, if that ends up being true. But there's not really any evidence of that either. I think it's just, like I say, our low expectations. Maybe we're off the mark a little bit. Is probably what I'd say.
I think there is, like we've sort of said before, looking at it with like that sort of bit more distance. I don't think it's touts, number one, just simply because there isn't that many that's appeared on the resale market, as far as I'm aware. But the tickets themselves, they have gone up in price. So it means you're going to have more disparate. There's going to be a lot more like floor seats. And I think if the touts were buying floor seats at those prices, they'd be taking a hit. That would be like, they'd be absolutely suffering at this point. And I think they realise themselves, because you like to think that ticket touts are quite smart about this type of stuff, that they would have realised that this isn't like the NFL or something like that, where tickets go pretty much immediately and it feels like it's an ultra hot event, or Taylor Swift tickets, where they'll be all over it for that kind of stuff for the resale market. I don't think that is the case here. In terms of who that fans are, I always think of them as like it is the people who sort of followed wrestling with TNA on Challenge and stuff like that. Like I think, to say like the Wrestle Talk kind of fans, the people who kind of like, I always think that's how they found out about wrestling. And like you say, those people who watch.
Let me tell you about YouTube. There's some horrendous YouTube channels out there. Not that ours is the best in the world, with hundreds of thousands of viewers who are just, there are people out there who like that's how they get their news, from Sean's Views or whatever. The YouTube channel of choices, like they're a silent majority, mate. Not everyone has got the refined taste of people like us listening to Post Wrestling and the Observer and Voices and stuff like that.
I mean, I think what they've done with this, primarily, the thing you have to say that it is like a kind of a success is straight away they've made their money back. There is that, so they're not taking a bath on it. They've also got, like you say, 9 months to kind of think on this, like they should do their baby. And they've just found out they're pregnant with a decent kind of WrestleMania show. And they said the thing they need to do is have their shit together for when that baby comes out. Something I can't always say that I've had, but there we go. It's like one of those kind of situations where they've got this period of time to kind of get their ducks in a row, sell consistent amounts of tickets, because it is going to start kind of petering off now at this stage. And that early rush, if they can get it up to 40 before like the going into 2024, you go, okay, that's sort of like a good point. And then at that point, it's almost like it's like lap of the gods. I still like, this is the only time they're coming over, and I imagine that's part of the appeal. Although I wonder if that will change. And I can see us talking about this on Ask GRAPPL, whether or not they'll actually come over before that, just in order to give things a bit of a boost. And I still wonder, like, they're going to have to produce like a good product and try and make themselves hot, because the situation in the States is it feels like Wembley and everything else, it's almost like it's a different company when it comes to tickets and all of the stuff that they're kind of doing, because it's pretty desperate over there for ticket sales. We're quite used to seeing like poorly attended shows, and you see various photos coming out of like one side of the building where there's a cameraman and a couple of other lads just sort of sat there, empty rows of seats and everything else. And I think this feels like a good news story for them to kind of like, it's the one thing that they're able to kind of latch onto, is they're doing this absolutely mammoth show. And this is really, something already where they go, okay, this is our most successful show. And it's nice to see them trying at least to sort of like really capitalize on it, because my God, they're plugging it all the fucking time. And I think part of the plan is to try and see if they can get a few Americans and Canadians to make a trip over to London to go and see it. Like, this is their big AEW show. So for that hardcore base to sort of go, what, we're not going to Chicago? Oh, you're going to go to London. It's going to be a lot more different.
Well, like us, they've started early. You know, we've started on the Wembley ticket analysis early. I imagine again, it's going to quieten down soon. You know, we've talked about it in the last 3 shows because these numbers are genuinely, I think, quite shocking and newsworthy where they are. It's going to get quiet for a while, and it's going to be what they do in those quiet months that's going to be important. If anything, they've promoted it right now to the extent that like it's probably hitting other shows because it's getting so much focus. You know, they're opening Collision and Dynamite with, you know, shouty reminders about All In, or you got Kevin Kelly, or was Tony Schiavone this week on Collision, and getting the they've been very good with the .co.uk. It was .co.uk. I was like, come on, mate, get Tony in there, he'll tell you. Apparently apparently World's End is literally named after the pub in Camden, he said today. So we know he's got his ears to the crown when it comes. Yeah, apparently he walked past on the way back from a Fulham game and thought that's a good name for a pay-per-view. That's literally what he said.
What Fulham game was he at? We fucking walking through Camden.
I was going to say, what's he doing there? Business meeting at the World's End that maybe gone to progress. Who knows? But apparently that's genuinely the case. But he does, you know, for his faults, you know, we spend a lot of time picking them apart. He understands this market, I think. He understands the importance of Wembley. He's just not very good at getting that across to the Americans. So that's where I doubt whether people would come over, because I still think Americans think of this as a big Saudi show. And I think, you know, the card, as good a time as we had, maybe went to that, you know, this year, you know, ending with a comedy match in Cole and MJF, and they're not really been much memorable from an in-ring point of view if you were sat at home watching on pay-per-view. But that can easily be put right as well. They put the money where their mouth is when it comes to promoting the thing, when it comes to, you know, getting there early, getting the tickets on sale before Christmas. I think they answered a lot of our criticisms from last year. That's the other criticism we had. It's the card, and it's the making it your WrestleMania to justify selling that many tickets, and to sell, you know, those remaining tickets. That's going to be the thing. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past them at this point to come close to last year's numbers. Steph laughing there. Yeah, apparently Tony was in Camden. Who knows? But as you said, JP, yeah, Carl says here, can't wait for AEW Camden Underworld pay-per-view. That might be the name of the show there. Nice one, Carl. Any other hot spots in it?
Pay-per-view just called Market or like Coco. Jazz
Wendy's
Cafe.
That's on the corner. Camden Junction. I don't know Camden that well. But yeah, so I mean that's the positive, as you alluded to, JP. But before, you know, we get into the shows of the week, I think it's weird because it does seem to exist in this silo, all of the Wembley news, which is overwhelmingly positive right now, in an environment where, you know, AEW are dealing with being not the hot product, you know, that they were. You know, Meltzer reporting today on his radio show that, you know, they're not there's a lot of negativity backstage. Apparently morale is particularly low backstage at AEW right now. You're seeing, you know, as pictured you're seeing, you know, Britt Baker, you know, talking out of turn a little bit on Twitter. You know, Dave Meltzer's phone's blowing up with if he's saying morale seems low in AEW, it's probably a lot of wrestlers getting him on the phone and getting their gripes out there. I know people who speak to some people backstage at AEW, and you do see, you know, that happening where there are wrestlers, and some of the ones you would probably expect, who seem to not be particularly happy right now. It must be a weird situation performing right now in front of, you know, other than Wembley obviously being the great news from a ticket point of view. We got other like ticketing type stories to talk about today, and in general, AEW's year over year is bad, and there's a lot of, like Steph talked about on the show that I did with her, a lot of dynamites, including the Thanksgiving dynamites in Chicago, that are happening with, you know, that generic, you know, I think I heard somebody called it the Edge setup, the Copeland setup, where there's just a lot of empty. There's a hard cam, and the wrestlers, you know, it looks all right on TV, but the wrestlers are talking to a hard cam. And a lot of people dress like chairs is kind of the experience of being an AEW wrestler right now. It's obviously not a sky is falling situation, JP, because again, they got Wembley in the back pocket. Again, we're not talking crazy low numbers when we get into the numbers in attendance and stuff, but that would be, you know, my sneaky thought as to why morale is low. Obviously, there's a lot of changes going on backstage. We saw today, you know, the vice president of post-production, Kevin Sullivan, not the Kevin Sullivan or the other Kevin Sullivan who writes books, the Kevin Sullivan who does production. There's 3 of them in wrestling. It's dead annoying. He's gone, and that indicates a bit of change. So maybe the change in power structure, QT Marshall leaving, who seemed it was like somebody died when he left. The amount of tweets and stuff from wrestlers, it was like unbelievable. You could just tell sometimes when somebody's an extremely popular figure backstage and he feels like one. It just feels, JP, like a company in flux behind the scenes, and a company that is struggling with not being the hot alternative brand it is, and struggling for an identity on screen. But it wouldn't shock me that it's, having effects backstage as well.
I think this is at the point in the proceedings, and like you say, like a company in flux, and in some ways it's not a surprise, because if we chart the growth of where AEW were, like first of all, just their sheer presence being almost a thing that kind of would get them through like kind of 3 years almost, that they were new and they were something different to kind of WWE. And I think a lot of our criticisms are focused around, certainly mine have been like around the fact of them doing stuff that WWE does and going, well, I don't think that's the way forward necessarily for them. And them changing the kind of infrastructure, I'm not entirely surprised, because in many ways it hasn't grown as the company's grown. So in terms of the Kevin Sullivan one, like first up, because they hired Mike Mansory, and in some ways I'm not surprised. And do I think like, and I know Dave Penza made a comment about this as well, about what his specific role was, is that he was the vice president of post-production, which means like, he edits Rampage, does the packages for TVs, promo ads, stuff like that. And you know what? As kind of solid as they are, it doesn't suggest kind of cutting edge TV. And I think this is part of the problem has been about the presentation. However, that doesn't affect the stuff in terms of like the live business, which is poor. And a point I think I raised when we spoke about like the kind of the state of AEW a couple of weeks ago is that, well, where should they be? Like, you brought up the figures there on the screen there for video viewers in there. In terms of like the estimated tickets, it's down pretty much every single quarter for the last couple of years, bar quarter 4 in 2021 and Q2 2023, where I wonder what was sort of boosting the ticket distribution for that. And there's going to be one anomaly of a show that's thrown into the mix, but it's gone down. And I think in many ways what they haven't done is they haven't realised, certainly in terms of the venues and the presentation, is they're thinking of things in kind of like a traditional way of, we need to run what are like kind of very orthodox arenas. And I think there needs to be a bit of outside the box thinking when it comes to places they could run, whether there be kind of cooler music venues or stuff like that, just something that would create a different kind of television experience, which even Daly's place, for God's sake. And I was never the biggest fan of it, but it always looked kind of different on TV. Like there was always something about that I kind of thought. So I always thought it can't be a hot ticket if you can get 18,000 of them at a push, and there's nowhere near. They've kind of exhausted several markets. We joke about it, but Chicago and what Steph brought up in that, they've absolutely rinsed it to death, and they need to rethink that policy. But it's also how they market themselves as well. There's very little about them at this stage when you watch the kind of product, even for the stuff that I like, stuff that you feel like is in the zeitgeist. It's kind of new, it's fresh. If I knew exactly what that was, I'd assume I'd be bloody working from at this point, and we'd be implementing it, and we'd be starting to see an upturn in it. But I think that's part of the issue with it at the moment, is that as they've kind of gone on, I think maybe to a lot of people, and I think Steph intimated it when she spoke about it on the show that you did with her as well, is that there isn't this type of like, it's a WWE fan that's going to it. Why? Because as a product, it kind of resembles WWE. And I think that is part of the stuff that made them kind of different early on, good and bad. A lot of that's been removed for presentation and storytelling that is far too influenced by WWE, rather than, it's almost like what this company needs is like this season to end as a TV show, have a bit of a break and a reset and have a think about it. But they can't. It's the one thing they can't do. They have to carry on. So any transitions kind of have to happen on TV in front of us. But yeah, I think there's a few changes in the presentation that have been needed for quite some time.
Yeah, and it's, we don't know how much of these changes are coming from they're obviously in a negotiation. Yeah, we don't know like how much it is. TNT, TBS, it's Warner going, no, we want more entertainment. We want Ric Flair. You know what I mean? And I know Tony Khan was in the news today talking about the Ric Flair one, and almost humble bragging that it's not we're not paying for Ric Flair. presumably, and these aren't his words, whoever the money mark is that's putting his energy drink together is paying AEW to use Ric Flair. So in Tony Khan's words, it's a profit to AEW to have, you know, and these aren't Tony Khan's words. They are fucking sex offender on TV. They're my words. As Arsenal score, JP, 4-3 right now. There you go.
Fucking get it. Christ, I've been worried about that as well. Don't tell. He's going to tell me VAR in a minute or something like that.
96 minute, right? There you go.
Again.
Beast. I feel
awful. I feel dirty cheering him on again. Just violent stuff as well, but.
Well, yeah, there is. Yeah, there's an irony there, unfortunately. But you know, sports are going to sport, aren't they? Unfortunately, it's as sad as it is as a subject. But yeah, you know, there is definitely a sea change, and I do wonder how much of it's coming from that. But you are seeing it, you know, in the again via WrestleNomics and WrestleTix is where these graphics are coming from. Just look, you know, we spend a lot of time crunching quarter hours and crunching TV ratings, which are of course down year on year. We cover that enough, but it's shown in ticket sales. It's shown in just market to market fluctuation, like me and Steph talked about with the Chicago Thanksgiving Dynamite this year compared to last year, or they even got in the WrestleNomics numbers. You compare the Dynamite, in November, with 20% down from a Dynamite in Chicago only a few months ago, in June. Same thing in Minneapolis during this last period as well, a 16% drop. There's clearly just less of a demand, I think, for AEW. They might turn into a TNA, and they might, with these, Dynamite year-on-year numbers are on the screen there. And again, credit to those guys. But it might turn out that we end up, in a TNA situation where they're a European. It's like Bret Hart in the 90s. They're a European company rather than an American company. We'll always prop up these companies when business is bad in the US. Get over here, and Bret Hart will still be the biggest hero in the world, and Bully Ray will still be filling arenas in the UK. That was genuinely a thing that was happening in the 2000s. We are usually the last domino to fall, and again, like I say, they're probably, despite themselves, going to get a killer TV deal. Yes, Collision and Rampage numbers aren't looking good, although Collision was back in the 400,000 range this week, which I suppose is a win compared to where it's been the last while. They're still, despite themselves, gonna get a good deal. But I think all of these signs are there, and it goes to the backstage environment and it goes to the on-screen product that it just isn't where it was before. And I think when they were there, and Suit Williams wrote a great piece on this on Voices last year, when they were the challenger brand, when they were the hot alternative, that was a great place to be. When Vince McMahon was the big bad on the other channel that you could rally against and go, we're not Vince McMahon's wrestling. Like, there was an obvious place in the market for AEW. It's less obvious now. WB is, whether it's good or not, has gotten better. The Vince McMahon problem in Suits words is gone. And yeah, like we keep talking about, WB feeling more and more, despite all that stuff, like the babyface promotion, and AEW is a promotion struggling to kind of, figure out what it is right now.
And I think they haven't helped themselves by a lot of the times not even acknowledging that there's stuff that they perhaps need to do. And it's not like public admissions that this is bad or this is bad, but not like doing clear correction changes. So it's like justifications of Ric Flair. And it's like, well, if you're needing that kind of money from that, then that's not a great position. We're talking about a company, in revenue that was meant to have done 175 million. How much is Woo? How much are they getting for Woo Energy? As Steph brings up on it. Like, and
read Steph's article on that, by the way, on a Substack. Follow her on Twitter at Stephanie M. Jason. Read that article, which covers the Flair stuff that we talked about a little bit on the weekend show, in a lot of detail of the issues with that kind of change perspective on what AEW is when you've got Ric Flair's Woo Energy on the entranceway on every fucking screen. It's a different company. Sorry, Jamie.
And but I was going to say, it looks low rent. This isn't Monster on UFC, certainly not even Ruffles or Slim Jims.
Not even Mike Tyson's drink, is it?
No, it isn't. It's not even like that's the problem. Is it looks like a low rent brand, which then by default makes them kind of look low rent and just like you're chasing the kind of money. And I think that's part of the issue with them is that there's that impression that kind of follows it. And we even saw it with, even to bring it back to Wembley, I think in some ways the Wembley ticket sales, after a while, they started to go up because people thought, I need to be part of an event because it feels like it's going to be big. And therefore, it's like more people do that because they know it's going to be big. And then before you know it, they've sold a fuckload of tickets. So like, there's a lot of the times it kind of enters into this type of cycle. But this is the issue with them at the minute in terms of like their organisation. like, and things that I've like kind of banged on. I'm sorry to bring up the horrible word infrastructure yet again, but there's like the kind of organizational elements. So like Rampage, for example, I mean, it's done like it was like up 27% from last week. That's up to 348,000. Like when you think of the heights of where it was, and that's taken out CM Punk debut, like as the complete anomaly in all of this. It doesn't have his own identity. I mean, this week it was just like a fuckload of like tags, 6-person tags, 1 8-person tag, and I'm just like, I don't give a shit. I do not give a shit about this, like at all. It's just sort of stuff that is thrown together in the most kind of like generic way, and that doesn't have its own.
Preview next week, mate. Final battles next week.
I mean, and I've seen the sales. What a like, and again, it's just running that Garland, Texas Civic Center, which they must have some great fucking deal with because they.
You know, I was bang on about that. They should be running the tri-state and treating it like it's an indie. I know the time is came and we'll be previewing that next week, but the time is came and gone. I understand the argument, put it in arenas, because then when it's in arenas, it's like the thing with the AW attendance problem right now. Like they're in big arenas that are probably too big for what they've got, but they're on primetime TV, so I get it. You want to look like a primetime TV product, but that argument dissipates, doesn't it, when it's less and less people, and when, you know, it's the empty shell that ROH has become. At this point, you're not kidding anybody by taping it after Rampage and Collision. You might as well just fucking throw it in the National Guard Armory, or, you know, nicer arenas than that, but small, intimate, hardcore indie fan spaces, and make it its own thing. It's that problem I think we and most people spotted right away when Tony Khan sat at a press on him with a straight face, went, yeah, I'm going to book that too. And we were all like, are you really, mate? And we're seeing the fruit of that now. We're seeing that, like, you can't possibly book that on top of Collision, on top of Rampage, on top of Dynamite. And I've got good things to say about, you know, Collision and Dynamite this week that we'll get into in a minute. But, you know, obviously there's going to be that problem, isn't there?
There is going to be that problem. But I also think, like, they're missing a trick on it about, I always think what you want is a hot atmosphere. And one of the things that I don't see at these shows is a hot atmosphere. And that's the thing that is almost impossible to replicate, that you can only get if you're in running like kind of small venues. And guess what? They're in America, which has every type of venue for everyone, because there's so many events going on, like particularly in relation to sport everywhere, and like bloody high schools and the rest of it. And it could be, they could run more interesting venues that look kind of cooler, and like it almost like that kind of boutique wrestling where you get like great wrestling, but there's only like 1,000 people there. They could do that in front of hot crowds, and I think then that would make for then a better television product rather than the arena thing, because I think there's still a point where we get through and giant LED screens do not always a good television experience make. Like we need something else from that as well, where you want, like, dare I say it, like the Jericho Cruise, something that I would have zero interest in ever being on. Do you know what? It looked fucking different. Like, I could have done without the wind and stuff like that. But my God, did it look entirely different. That feels
there you
like
go. ROH needs to be on a boat. Glory by Honor 5 boat version. Glory by Honor on the sea.
Yeah. Ring of Honor cruise. Ring of Honor 2 cruise control. That's really what it is at this point. The shit sequel to 2006 Ring of Honor. But with that said, like, I do think they're in a rebuilding period right now. I think you know, whether, you know, we talked about Dynamite on the weekend show, and to kind of summarize that, you can get the review for free on the YouTube if you missed us talking about Dynamite in that granular detail. But the overall take on it was, I think we both enjoyed it more than we have been enjoying Dynamite for a while. Functional, I think, was the word we used. They were good, not great. Continental Classic matches. MJF cut a good, not great promo about Samoa Joe. Unfortunately, that descended into madness with the Masked Devil, and you can hear our hatred of that angle. The only, you know, good sign is that maybe we're getting a bit of a reveal on this week's Dynamite, I would guess, because I think I had you can always shout them out, but the What Culture lads were talking about that. How can you have a tag match with two lads in masks and not at any point just pull the mask off? Because quite clearly from Dynamite, that was Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and the big one was definitely fucking Wardlow. So just fucking pull the mask off, lads. It's going to be an angle on Dynamite rather than a match. And, you know, we can talk about Dynamite as a whole, and I think I'm looking forward to that story just being over. Like, I watched Collision this weekend, and I was like, I feel like Joe Lanza's going to get his wish, and Roderick Strong, the goof,
is going to disappear because it's going to turn out that he was being annoying on purpose this entire time because he was part of the devil stuff. And hopefully we'll fast forward into a resolution with that, because I think if we can get that off the telly, and if we can, I can maybe live with a bit of Tony Storm. I can maybe live with some of the other goofy elements of TV. Like, there are some signs of life there. I think the Continental Classic has done what it was supposed to do, which was give the fucking nerds some good wrestling matches and go back to basics. There was a lot of that over the week's TV this week, and it was good matches, which is, with a roster like AEW is the easiest thing in the world to do, but not something they would necessarily do in the last while or so. I think we were relatively positive on Dynamite, and I kind of keep that not red hot positivity, but maybe that tepid positivity going with the actual product that they put on screen this weekend. Like, it was inoffensive is probably the way for Rampage for me. And Collision, I thought, was a pretty good show.
Yeah, and this is always the thing when we're watching and reviewing Collision on here, is I tend to find myself enjoying it, like, as a TV product. And I have to say, in terms of the Continental Classic, it's because the stakes aren't to my pleasing. Okay, there's stuff about it I don't necessarily like, but to have a lot of very good wrestlers, some of whom are around that kind of upper mid-card tier, all of whom kind of focused in one direction, but individually, that's good. It feels like the kind of stakes. And because one of the things I think they should be doing is more kind of like using of the like real sports aspect of like you're developing like that career, that hierarchy, even if they don't want to acknowledge kind of rankings and everything else, you're creating it with this tournament as well, whilst also having good matches into the mix, of which, I thought, again, 2 very good matches alongside stuff that was kind of generally inoffensive, much more so, I think, the Danielson and Eddie Kingston match there as well, even if I'm kind of fearing the worst for Eddie Kingston. At least, like, it feels like they're making better use of some of the parts, which has not always been the case, and it's not as haphazard as it was. And like you've said, I just want an end to the devil stuff because I couldn't care. And even seeing the Roderick Strong interview, interrupting the Samoa Joe interview and stuff like that, it's, I can do without it, because what I want fundamentally is, I suppose, from this is just somewhat more of a serious product. Like, that's our big complaint is, ever since the comedy has come into the mix and the kind of silliness, which has coincided with a lot of MJF stuff, that's been part of the problem. It's like that tonal shift is something they need to kind of recover from. And the Continental Classic has kind of worked for that, even if it hasn't. We still haven't seen the absolute killer match, but then you save them for the semis and the final, I imagine, is what they're thinking of doing. But, it's a G1, for example. The classic matches just appeared in fucking random places at times because it was down to the combination of people.
Yeah. And you're kind of getting that a little bit on a smaller scale. It's like, on Collision, I enjoy Brody King and Claudio more than I thought I would. Like, Brody King's someone who a lot of people are very high on, just doesn't really translate to me. I kind of feel the same way about Claudio, and I think I just accept it's a me problem. I just don't find the man interesting. Christian was a me problem, maybe Claudio is too. But like, both of them have been surprising me. Like, both of them have been like, especially Brody's story they're telling, like with having him actually pick up these wins and bust these fucking coupons. Like, that's been a big positive for me, like, of the tournament so far. I thought that was a cracking like match to open Collision. I thought Andrade and Daniel Garcia was fine. Again, the Daniel Garcia story, I think once we get further down the line, if they tell it the right way, I think I'm going to be into. If we get to the point where, and this is ghetto booking, if him getting a fucking draw with Danielson, and if you can book it in a way where that feels like the biggest win in the world, I honestly think that's where they're headed. Or maybe I'm just hoping for that because that's what I've chosen my pick'ems. But like, I can see that story longer term, even if, Andrade, he's just, he's one of those wrestlers. He's better idea in theory than practice, I think. Fine match though in the middle of it. And I think I've said that about. I'd say I'll be saying that about, because this was Andrade's first match. All of his matches maybe in this tournament, but I always say that about his week to week. But yeah, I felt like Danielson Kingston was very, very good. It was 4 stars, like, no doubt for me. No lower than that, but also no higher than that. I think it was good, but I don't even want to put a but on it. It was good, and it was a 4-star match. It wasn't 4.5 stars higher, like type of thing. It was just a nice little match with a nice little story. Danielson's, coming back fresh from injury, so there's probably going to be a bit of a ceiling on there. So don't get me wrong, I wasn't, massively doing somersaults on it or calling it like, a G1 top level match, but it was definitely, middle of the G1, one of those memorable ones that you might remember from. I remember that year when Minoru Suzuki and AJ Styles got match of the year in all the polls, like for a match that just happened on a random like day 6 or 7. It felt a bit like that, if maybe on like on a lower scale. But there's a million. It's one of those matches that's going to hold up to a lot of repeat viewing as well, because there's all the million little things in the match that I'm sure Gareth will love out of it. And nobody sells loss better than Eddie Kingston. Nobody fights from underneath and then makes you feel like he's your equal, like Danielson did. There was a lot to love in the match. It was just maybe I wouldn't go as far as some.
Yeah, I wouldn't go absolutely berserk for it, but then I don't know. In some ways, I think I kind of accepted the fact that perhaps that's not the story that they're going to try and tell. They're going to try and almost save it for the very end. How much of this stuff are we really going to remember? It's probably going to be those tiebreaker ones, like you say, the Daniel Garcia story that they should be telling, because you don't want to have like the inexplicable. Because if he loses all of the matches, then it's just a fucking waste of time. Because he's not like he's ever going to have the opportunity to have brilliant matches in those 6. Not going to have 6. I think that's possibly the issue with it. Is it's very good wrestling at a time where we get loads and loads of very good wrestling. Therefore, like, it has to kind of really stick out. And I think that's the thing with the Continental Classic, is we haven't had that. And with all of the G1 analogies, I think the stuff that ends up standing out is stuff that feels like on a truly high level, which, let's be honest, we haven't seen that really for a few years. It feels like it's like almost like a mythical dream.
Yeah, when we say G1, we're not talking the evil G1 or like the one from this year or last year. We're going back a bit, aren't we? So we are cherry picking G1s too, aren't we?
We are cherry picking for that. But it's adding a good structure for this, and it's adding at least some serious storytelling. And it feels like there is a plan that's very much in place. Is really what should this be doing? Is everyone is going to be getting interesting directions as an offshoot of it. Of these are 12 people that are going to be like a focus of the TV, and it's going to be someone like a Brody King. I'm grateful for, because it's somewhat of a breath of fresh air as well. It's like, okay, and it feels like the crowd are wanting those types of people as well to come through. People that haven't been given a chance. I think that's why he's been given these kind of really good receptions, because it's like, okay, this is like a kind of like an interesting dark horse that they've thrown into the mix of someone who's just been part of a stable, but in fact is actually getting, like, say, those coupon busting wins.
Story being told there. It's like the Kingston thing. It's like, I said this week 1 when we were pretty lukewarm on the matches, and I don't want it to sound like I didn't enjoy Danielson Kingston, because I did. I love Danielson being a bully. I love Kingston being like the world's saddest man when he gets put in these positions, and his promos, in loss are as good as anybody's, and it just his general demeanor, surrounding this loss as good as anybody's. Fucking Danielson basically being a bully at a point in this match, and especially in the post match, putting the sign on him and stuff like that. And Kingston now, the story with him isn't those first 2 matches. The story's going to be, as much as we don't really buy it, he put his 2 belts on the line in this tournament, and now he's going to have to come back. Now he's literally going to have to go undefeated, because, as Connor rightly points out in the chat, you could be eliminated from this tournament in match 3, which is a bit of a bug, compared to a G1, but you can make it a feature in a character like Eddie Kingston. You just can't lose now. I think we'll be into that. I think, that once we get into the deeper levels and later in December with this tournament, we'll be bang into that story. There's things you can do.
And he can sell it better than anyone. I mean, I've long thought of all of the kind of like interesting and original characters and wrestlers that are around AEW. Orange Cassidy, for example, is certainly one of them who's won me around, but Eddie Kingston is the other one, of like that believable underdog who doesn't have the look, doesn't really have like the moveset necessarily, but has the kind of absolute like that will to win, to kind of completely grit his teeth and get through. You have to tell that story, and we would believe it as well. And it's something that, like, if that means you're getting to like him and Moxley, ultimately, that from a storyline perspective works. It feels like a massive reboot for Eddie Kingston, and as someone who like is just like that interesting face of pushing to the top line mix. You want them to
be
do
a main
that
character on TV.
Should be a main character on TV. He should have been this for a while, and there's been various reasons as to kind of why not. But he should be there. Not good reasons. There's been reasons. I just don't think they're actually great reasons, because I think what he adds is a completely different edge and complex to every other person there, because you believe him, and that's kind of what you want. Is he's the person who gets that real level of emotion, even when he does like the kind of promo packages at the start of Collision where he just looks annoyed that you've asked him to do it. Kind of like Roy Keane in many ways, isn't it? Like you're trying to get him to do fun stuff. There's kind of like slightly Roy Keane-ish style vibes. But yeah, if that's the story we end up going through now for the next 4 weeks, where he can't lose, then these are the building blocks they have to take. It's tell the good stories. They're not going to be selling loads of tickets for it. To bring it back to kind of the early debate, are the TV ratings going to go massively up? No, but what it's going to be doing is delivering consistently good product with stories that are easy to follow and logical. And that's the thing about these kind of tournament style booking, which wrestling never does particularly well, is if you don't overcomplicate it and you think of it in like the kind of like simplest of terms, these are the things that work. The idea of a wrestler being out of a tournament, but he has to win his next 4 matches, that's easy to understand. You have to be pretty thick not to get that, or to go. Where's
some Americans are struggling with the graphs, mate. I don't know if you've seen anything on Twitter, but like some people get very confused by an X, a 3 and a 0, and a.
Do they not understand how numbers work? I can't help them. It's a failing, a much bigger failing of the American school system. Either way, like I'm still not buying their excuses for it. But yeah, this is simple storytelling, like in its purest form, which you can then have some cracking promos about as well. But I'm going to enjoy watching the Continental Classic, like, for this. It is, against all of the issues I have with it, do I think it's been a good thing for AEW TV? Yes, it has done. But like you say, the issues we have in terms of you don't have all your best wrestlers in there, for one. But is it going to serve a function at the end of it of giving directions to people and everything else? Yeah. Whether or not it truly clutters up the title division, and Christ knows at this point. But we'll cross that road when we come to it at World's End, mate.
Oh, we are in a weird position because they're doing those Canada shows this week. So the Continental Classic matches and of Kenny Omega versus Ethan Page that was set up on this past week's Collision, which is a random one. Ethan Page looked well. He looked good. He can always cut a promo. Didn't necessarily make me interested in a match with him and Kenny Omega, but they're taping them tonight. At the time of recording, it's Tuesday at in Montreal, and then there's a show tomorrow, which is Dynamite, which is a bit of a weird kind of a situation we find ourselves in, with Collision being taped before Dynamite. But again, you can kind of do that with tournament action, and having the hard split between the blue and gold group kind of makes that make sense. But yeah, that's obviously coming up on Collision at the weekend. We can talk a bit about that. But yeah, Dynamite coming up this week, which will also be from Montreal. Tony Storm, Sky Blue, paying off Sky Blue being on TV every 10 minutes. Jay Lethal, Jay White, Mark Briscoe, Swerve Strickland, the John Moxley, Rush, the Continental Classic matches. Not exactly the most exciting 3, but decent enough matches. But yeah, that's maybe a weaker night for this block. MJF and Samoa Joe against your masked goons is going to be on the show this week. And the other big thing they've been setting up, JP, Christian Cage and our boy Cope. It's happening on TV. Not doing it on a pay-per-view or whatever. We're just getting it. Presumably there'll be a rematch at some point. But yeah, I suppose doing it in Canada was too hard to pass up. What have you thought about the last bit of build they've done for that one? And yeah, what your excitement levels for it? Is Christian Cage somehow made you interested in Adam Copeland?
Do you know what? He has. And praise where praise is due. I say he has. As much as I can be interested in a match between these two, whose paths have been, like, their careers have been linked together since the fucking 1996 or whatever. So it feels like, okay, this is the only way, I suppose, I could be kind of interested. And it was like, the nut shot and everything else, and him turning to go fuck himself, I thought was, like we mentioned on the weekend update, I thought that was pretty decent. Like I say, interested in it. I'm glad they're doing it on TV, because I don't think as a pay-per-view match, what would it have added? And it would have ended up dragging it out. And I think while you've got Adam Copeland, have this match, have Christian win due to a load of bollocks, because there's no way he should be dropping his title to Adam Copeland. There's just no way. Like, I think they might do. That wouldn't be the biggest surprise. I don't particularly like it because I'm just really generally enjoying this run. And have Adam Copeland, have Edge. I don't want to. I'm sick of saying Adam Copeland all the time, or Cope. have him have those matches against the people he hasn't had, like the Kenny Omegas of the world and other stuff, where there is much more of a never thought we'd see this kind of scenario, because that is probably the best use of him for as long as you've got him, which hopefully isn't for that long, like for 2 years. Is this as good as he's possibly? I've probably enjoyed him in here more than I enjoyed him in anything I saw him in his WWE return, bar him coming back at the Royal Rumble. Outside of that,
yeah, I'd love for us to just move on. Is the only thing for me. I'd like this to be it, but I don't think it is going to be. I could keep saying I'm sneaky suspicion they'll do a TLC match at the pay-per-view. Just weird timing to do this Montreal show now. I know it's Canada. Maybe that's the thinking, but I just can't see this being a blow-off. I'm not necessarily excited about Adam Copeland versus, in his opening promo when he talks about, I could wrestle Kenny Omega, or I could wrestle, and you listen to all these young wrestlers. None of those matches particularly excite me, but at least we'll get to see what he can offer away from Christian. And I think there's been, for me, I'm still a bit of a stick in the mud in that I've enjoyed Christian's work. I still don't really think they've done enough to make me believe in this feud and that they hate each other, because there is so much in there that it even comes across in their promos about how, they brought up each other's kids and the wives know each other, and all that in real life. And I know that's not necessarily kayfabe, but when you make it part of the kayfabe story too, I struggle to buy the cartoon villain elements of Christian, I suppose, is rubbed up against the real life story they're trying to tell with the two of them. You know what I mean? It just doesn't really translate. This Christian really was looking after Edge's kids and stuff like that. It just, something about it's just a bit much for me. So I'll be glad to get them away from each other. I like Christian being in his maniacal little world, and Copeland can maybe do something interesting, let's hope, with one of the young wrestlers he so desperately wants to work. I'd just like to get it done with. I bet it'll be good though. I'm sure it'll be good, so maybe we'll get a small mess and it'll be over with after Dynamite, but I can't say it's going to be a bad match in any way. But yeah, any other thoughts on the rest of the year?
That.
Say that there's a lot on this Dynamite, 3 Continental Classic matches. I'm not going to get into the argument Meltzer and Alvarez did about the DVR and having to set it for the program afterwards, because
we have a rock about it, mate. Is that
apparently Dynamite keeps having an overrun in the chat. What year is this? Suppose they're in that physical world still, but there'll probably be an overrun. But I still don't think I think there's too much on the show for them to go too long. Any guesses on what's going to happen with this MJF and story? Like I said, can't be a match. I think a match is false advertising, so maybe that saves you some time there.
And it feels like false advertising even on the graphic, because all you're seeing there is MJF and Samoa Joe. They're not even just doing versus 2 blank figures. I just expect there to be some sort of distraction, or Adam Cole lying down in the back pretending that he's been beaten up, and then MJF runs out of there and other stuff like that. I think they're the only kind of directions that it goes in for that. So I think outside, I think that's where they go there. It's it's probably going to be, and again, looking at this Dynamite, it's probably going to be, again, wrestling heavy. It's going to be match heavy. Yes, there'll be storylines and stuff into the mix. And if it's that over what we had a few weeks ago, where, remembering we had the same skit involving Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and the Kingdom that went on for 3 weeks in a row, and then 1 week they repeated it twice. We're not getting that. And I'll take that at this stage. Thank heavens for small mercies. But I'm expecting it to be, and hopefully, I'm going to predict it'll be a decent episode of Dynamite. It's like they're working their way through stuff to get to this pay-per-view, and you're hoping that the reset that is in place is kind of, okay, the World's End show is going to be effectively, okay, this is where we put our foot forward for who are the people we're going to be going with in 2024.
I guess we'll see. But yeah, unless you've got more on AEW, should we switch the channel and do some follow up as we continue to be the Raw broadcast, mate. We need to talk a bit about what's going on over on WWE. Don't tune out, fair listeners, because there isn't much to say. Poor Steph stayed up last night and watched the entirety of Raw, and had missed the bulletin that the Punk wasn't going to be there. Even I only lasted an hour. He's going to be on SmackDown this week, and also Raw next week. For big Punk fans, we all know that Punk is a gigantic fan of the military and of the troops. So in a great irony, his return to SmackDown this week is going to be on the tribute to the Troop show. Now, I joke, but I think it's actually going to be quite interesting. I know we spent a lot of time on numbers with AEW, but from a WWE point of view, SmackDown this past week had the lowest audience on Fox in 2022. But what I actually thought was interesting, lying beneath that figure, and obviously they were up against apparently the Pac-12 championship game, JP. Apparently that's really important.
I don't get that American college football, because they've got a bowl game. It's not like it's a fucking system that works. It just appears to be, there's this league and they only play these lads. And I'm like, what's the fun in that? Seems shit.
When I played in my school, mate, one or two people's dads would turn up and no one else would come and watch it. It's a weird fucking country. But what I thought was notable, from those weak numbers, it did actually have a decent 18 to 34. And as our friends at Post Wrestling have actually written up, the big segments of the show, and this is one for Matty, Randy Orton. Apparently, and again, we said this last week with Raw, Randy Orton's segment was the big winner in the 3 hour Raw, and people did to a point, but not in massive numbers, stuck around for Punk as many as watched Randy Orton. Randy Orton might get another win here, as the audience increased 13% to 2.3 million viewers and 14% in the very important 1849 for a monster 941,000. So just in 1849, that beats pretty much every Dynamite that I can think of for the last few months. The Randy Orton segment on SmackDown, and I tell you what, honestly, rest of SmackDown pretty mid and boring. Bit like the bits of Raw that I saw from last night. Randy Orton segment was actually well done. This whole, is he going to sign for the blue band? Is he going to sign for the red brand? As much as that's easy to make fun of, he delivered it quite well. And I think Randy having just a good time out there, being this gigantic Batista-looking babyface now, and enjoying the babyface reactions that he's got. Hasn't wore off on me yet. Now the bell's going to ring, JP, and I'll be done with Randy Orton once again, as I pretty much always am when that happens. But it actually made for good TV, and it'll be actually interesting to see whether Punk has. We will for observer ballots going forward, JP. We need to pay attention to this and see, does Punk do a better number than Randy Orton on SmackDown? I don't know what your prediction is there. I don't really care whether he ends up on red or blue. I prefer he ends up on SmackDown because it's 2 hours worth of homework versus 3 hours worth of homework. If I want to keep up with what he's up to. I suspect he's going to be on Raw, because he's going to be on Raw next week as well. He is actually going to be on that show. But the interest for me is going to be, is CM Punk a drawing like the WWE will? We know there's plenty of numbers out, over the last week or so about T-shirt sales, and I think he's the first man in 5 months to with that nice T-shirt he's wearing the graphic there, to actually do over LA Knight, who's apparently been the top merch seller in WWE the last 5 months or so. So he's making the money that way. But is he actually a drawer in 2023 WWE? I think, if we didn't get it fully answered on Raw, we might get it answered on this the SmackDown this week. There you go.
I think we will, because it will. Whether he goes to Team Red or Team Blue will never hold any interest for me. It might as well be which Saudi football club does a player sign for. Is it Al Hilal, or is it Al Nasser? And I go, couldn't give a shit either way. They both mean nothing to me, and they're paid for by the same money. So what's the fucking point? So I think of the few things you can take from this, it is, okay, merchandise-wise, his merch has always looked cool. And it's that kind of trademark kind of hand holding the lightning bolt stuff has always been a very canny kind of branding. That's the one thing he's always been in charge of. But like you say, I think with the rating, if you're going to ask me, he's going to do better than Randy Orton. Yeah, because this was a lower one as well. Again, there'll be probably some massive high school fucking basketball game on that will draw 55 million or something mad like that, because that's the way, like you mentioned earlier on, those college sports work. But I think SmackDown will do a better number, just simply, again, because it's back off FS1. There'll be another week. There might have been the kind of issue with that as well. Like you, if he ends up on SmackDown, it gives us a couple more days for me to try and tolerate SmackDown, because I sat through a 17-minute, was it that Raw recap they do on YouTube, and that was enough for me. And there were people saying there was good wrestling on there. I was like, I'm sure there might well have been. I will never know because I will never see it. So it doesn't exist in my world. But again,
Drew's match was good. Drew and Sammy had a decent match on Raw this week, I will say. It was
Okay.
probably other than Danielson and Kingston was probably the best TV match of the week, and that's on fucking Raw. Now you've got to sit through 2.5 hours more if you fancy being a completist, and some of those 2.5 hours was at a DIY 2 out of 3 falls match with the former ring count, which I feel like is getting overrated in some circles. But that match itself was actually good, if not to the obvious high standard of Kingston and Danielson.
Hey, this McIntyre character, it's as interested as I've been in him in WWE. Just him as justifiable heel at last. We've cut to the chase and we've got there. But I think I would have been saying the same thing about Roman Reigns turning heel. It's like, good, there's like a natural place for like where this person should be. And that's where Drew McIntyre should be. And he's being used. Again, the thing that I kind of take away from Raw and whatnot, and I think the reason why Randy Orton works is everyone's being kind of booked strong. Even if people are losing, they are being booked strong. That was always the killer of the Vince years in the 2000s, was the way that he would go out of his way to book people poorly and book them so they looked weak. Jey Uso doesn't lose stuff by losing to Seth Rollins. I don't think that massively affects. Same thing with Sami Zayn. He's positioned as a top guy on Raw. And I think for those reasons, like, that's part of the reason the connection is there. And it's like Randy Orton is another interesting person to put into that kind of mix. So they've got their focus of for a little while. But not for long. But I also think there's enough.
Roman feud, Cody feud.
Yeah.
Go get injured again for another 2 years, mate. Go back to house shows.
Fine by me.
In that period, yeah.
Fine by me. Period. Let him do that. He can do that all day long. I'm all right with that in the meantime. But this is the thing about when we speak about that, like kind of AEW in the bigger way, where there's that level of disorganization, that things we've seen about it. This is where WWE is so rigidly organized at the moment that like the merger and everything else, and having Triple H in control, where it doesn't feel like he'd have to really fuck up to be ousted, and he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who will fuck up to be ousted, because he realizes effectively like WWE, for all intents and purposes, is his company. Yeah, not from a business perspective, but creatively, there isn't anyone else who they're going to be likely to go to. And its competency is his kind of buzzword. It was him as a wrestler. He's like, I'm going to make sure I can, like, at least I can work this kind of match, even as much as we may not have liked it. Well, he books in a certain way, and he books competently and methodically. And you've got it up on screen in terms of the ticket distribution. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Look at that difference year on year.
It's the opposite.
40% or 43%, quarter 2, quarter 3 up 31%, quarter 4 up 37%. That's just SmackDown. Raw's got a similar thing. There's a similar pattern with the ratings, although SmackDown softened a little bit there the last month or so. I think lack of John Cena and, dare I say it, Roman Reigns probably hurting that. But look at those numbers. Quarter 1, Raw was up 51%, like in ticket sales, like 38% in Q2. You know, like massive, like big numbers. It's tailed off a little bit later in the year, but still.
But it's like the pay-per-views. They had a remarkable run for them of really good big shows that we found ourselves through gritted teeth having to praise every month.
Cracking edition of WrestleNomics Radio, this, isn't it?
It is.
Brandon.
Oh, God.
Pollock and
I'm the other bloke. The Chris Gullo. We're certainly not Mookie Garner anymore. He'd be disgusted at this kind of talk. But it is the thing where they are just a very consistent company at this stage. And I think the thing, even with the softening of SmackDown numbers, like the broader point is, have they put people into the mix and made them feel more important than what they have been? I mean, the only person you'd say would have softened, then it's partly because it was like lightning in a bottle for a bit, was Sami Zayn. And I think even then we were kind of prepared for it all to go to shit the moment he lost to Roman. And it hasn't, quite pleasantly. And he's still an important factor in there. And they've done a good job of, in the main, like Jey Uso on Raw, from what I can tell, from the couple of minutes I saw, because again, I wasn't going to watch like a Seth Rollins match if I don't have to. It's like with a gun against my head or a recording, and it's like, all right, we've got this pay-per-view. So I'll do everything in my power to avoid them. It's worked in terms of this, and this is their strength at the minute. Is there's a level of organisation and competency that hasn't been around in AEW that it feels like the Continental Classic is a way of kind of turning that around, where we go, actually, we need something logical to kind of go to, where we can follow it week to week, and it forces them to plan in advance. Whereas WWE,
definitely.
they've been planning in advance for ages.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how, so Pollock's got on post wrestling. If you want more numbers, looking at like SmackDown and Raw viewership, and it's all mostly up year on year, like I say, with a bit of a softening in November on there, especially on SmackDown, and obviously, the lack of John Cena and potentially Roman Reigns is key to that. So that's me. Matty can spin that as a positive for Roman or another positive for Roman, whichever way you want to say that. And Raw is, with Punk coming back, as Pollock says in his piece, definitely feels. Got us knobheads watching it last week. Got me even watching a decent chunk of it this week. Feels a bit more must see with the Punk stuff going on, with to a point the Randy Orton stuff going on. But like I say, I can definitely stomach a Randy Orton jobbing to Roman Reigns and then turning heel and then jobbing to Cody Rhodes on the way to WrestleMania. That's probably as much as that will get my interest. But it's stuff there that they don't usually have in there. Usually, what is a dull November, December period before the Royal Rumble with no big pay-per-view either. There's only the NXT show, isn't there? Deadline that's coming up. Yeah.
That's this weekend.
Yeah, we'll be previewing that. We'll figure out who those people are at some point, JP. All of the YouTubers seem to love NXT. Like every single person who's out there who's covering wrestling in that broader kind of world. NXT is the greatest thing. Apparently, there's a wrestler called Stacks on there. I don't know. The women are great.
Mafia lad.
Not for us.
Yeah.
QT Marshall will join them, and then maybe I'll watch it if he joins that stable at some point.
Well, he'll be the star that he knows he is, isn't it? The only people I'll ever listen to really regarding NXT are Poison Rana, and I'll always take what Davey and Braden say. And I know Davey was like raving about a main event they had, the four-way, which involved was it Johnny Gargano and Bronson Reed and Wesley and things like that. And that's a better product for what it is, and I'm sure we'll end up enjoying that show when we come around. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head anything that's on there. Actually, no, I tell you, Ilya Dragunov, Baron Corbin. So I reserve the right to change that statement I made 10 seconds ago.
We'll edit it in post. But yeah, like Raw and SmackDown, I'll watch it at arm's length, and of course, it doesn't get the the analysis, because I don't think anyone wants to hear it on a Raw and SmackDown that we're going to give a Dynamite, so it is giving that little bit of leeway. But yeah, like the bits I saw from Raw and SmackDown, I did enjoy, and there was plenty of it. There isn't for me either, especially a 3-hour Raw in general, and some of the other shite that happens on SmackDown, backstage segments and the like, and just the overall general vibe. But got to call a spade, and yeah, that's where we are. I'll be watching SmackDown on Friday to see what Punk does. It'll be interesting to see where they go with the Orton, and it looks like Orton versus the Bloodline. So that's obviously a cue for. I think Roman's got a couple of December SmackDowns on his docket, so we'll see where we are before Rumble. Before we move on, did there be any predictions, or did you buy any of the speculation about Mania? We talked on the weekend show, Punk Austin being a thing. I've probably, even since we recorded that and that news broke that night, I'm just less and less into that. I don't think I was that into it 10 years ago. I think I was just it was cool for a WWE 2K13 promo. It was cool when there's in fact, I'll throw this out there on the WWE YouTube just to give them a little bit of credit. You've thrown an hour and 20 minutes CM Punk in WWE highlights video on YouTube. Never thought I'd see the day that happened again. It's fucking great. Goes through his entire WWE run and pretty much covers all the good and big moments, from the ECW run to the World Heavyweight title run to the pipe bomb, and then into loads of stuff I'd forgotten that he'd done. Obviously, the bit that we're probably going to do a deep cut on at one point, the Straight Edge Society and all that great stuff with Ray and Dominic and all that, which I'm sure they'll bring up when he eventually crosses paths with Dominic at some point, even into the later stuff with Heyman. That was all great stuff. It's genuinely a good watch. It's an hour and 15 minutes, the best of Punk in WWE timeline or something like that. I'd say watch it, honestly. It kind of got me into it. But yeah, in that they had the little clip of Punk and Austin during the Nexus run of Punk, which is one we should probably quickly forget. And it was I remember around the time thinking, oh, that'd be cool. A couple of great promo guys. I think it would be a natural fit with Punk being the straight edge guy and Austin being the drinker. I've seen Will say that in our Discord this week. I don't necessarily fully agree that was all the view could be, but it would have been an element of it. In the end, it would have just been two great promo guys. Like I said to you on the weekend show, it would probably be more like two equals than with respect. Austin and Kevin Owens was more a heel of the week there to bump and feed for Austin, and talk it up and then just get his comeuppance at the pay-per-view. With all that said, do I actually want to see it in 2023? Not really. But I don't know really. That was going to be my question. If not that, what is the plan, going into Mania? Presumably the Seth Rollins feud still happened. They dropped a nugget of that on Raw. Drew McIntyre threw a little dig at Punk, so maybe they'll go to that at some point. But what do you think? Do you think they stick to the Roman Cody plan? Do you think Punk gets inserted in there somewhere? Do you think it's Punk Austin? Do you think it's Punk whoever at WrestleMania? What's your gut on it?
My gut says they're going to do Punk Austin if they can, because they're going to look at it from a money perspective and what is a bigger show for them, because it'll be partly, and I don't know when the Peacock deal comes up, they're going to want to get their viewership up as much as possible, and Punk and Austin will do that. Am I interested in it? No, because from a match perspective, is it going to be any better than the Kevin Owens match? Probably not. Like, it really isn't. Like, it's more their minds
and the
working.
Going to see an Austin back in.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it now.
That's a massive factor. We've seen him come back. So there isn't like, we know, can he do a certain type of match at this point with bells and whistles? Yeah. But we've seen it. Therein lies the problem. I know the promo is going to be so great to take away from it. It's like, well, first of all, can we get the Stone Cold Sessions bit out? Like, that for me is like kind of like where it should be almost beginning from if they are going to be doing it. What they should be doing, and again, I don't like Seth Rollins, is they should be going to the Seth Rollins feud. There should be, you've created this world title. Well, what's going to give it the most kind of credibility is probably CM Punk in that. I think out of spite, they wouldn't give it to him. I think they'd have Seth Rollins retained. I think that would be the direction they'd go in. But it feels like we're getting that kind of possibly fast forwarded in. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at the Royal Rumble that they go to that point.
Then what you do?
And
I don't have an answer. I don't know where he fits in, because I think you've got to do Cody and Roman. I think, like you said on the weekend show, Punk and Roman feels more tail end of next year. Build to that long term. Do something with Heyman if he's still around. Can't really do Lesnar. That's been done. Kevin Owens would be, like I said, far more interesting prospect than Seth Rollins, but I bet the real life Kevin Steen is probably not necessarily up for that. I don't know.
I said it on the weekend show. Like, for a company now, we talk about their competency. Well, what is the competent, very good business decision? You go, well, the idea is you want to have those stadium shows being fucking massive. So how do you load them up? Well, put Punk Austin on SummerSlam. Do that there. Like, that's a show that could do with it. And again, you've already sold out WrestleMania. So you're going to do, like, you're going to have a real live bump on there as well at the same time. Like, again, I'm like kind of agree with Seth. Do I want to see it? No, not really. Like you, even when I was listening back to the YouTube clip, I was just like, bloody, I'm not that excited about it now. Now in like thinking about it, I already can imagine what the match is like in my head. And that's always the dangerous game for me. It's like, well, do I want to see it? Because in my head, it can last as long as I want it to, because it's my head and I'm in control of it. And I think with this, like if they're thinking about this logically, you want to space out those big Punk matches for each of the big shows. So you'll have him in the Rumble. You'll want him in like the Elimination Chamber, because it's in a stadium again, and they want that to be big. And I heard them getting paid about 16 million for that as well, which is fucking nuts for them going to Perth. So you want to be able to spread out those appearances where they have the most kind of bang for the buck and add something to those shows, because again, it keeps up that like kind of business case, and it keeps them in that hot product position of being able to have this person kind of carefully spaced out. But I do wonder at times with them, are they going to want to do that with Punk? Because it feels like, again, like, yeah, what do you do then? You have him kind of killing time. Do you want him as champion straight away? That's going to rub people up the fucking wrong way as well, backstage.
But like Andy says, are they going to test him? They're going to do what they did with when Brock came back and he lost to Cena right away. Is he going to lose to Seth? He's going to eat some crow and lose to that. Oh, I can't stand the idea of that. Like, fucking Seth. I'm so not into like this wet Seth Rollins comedy character going up against Punk and trying to do kind of some work shoot thing while still doing his funny song and his funny movements and his I'm so wacky kind of game. Oh, I hate it. I want that and I know it's happening, so I'm not even, I'm not in denial, but I just hope it happens at Rumble and we get something more interesting for Mania. Maybe Austin is the business call, like the chat are saying. Maybe Gunther's something I'd be banging to. I'd love that, but I don't know whether they do that. Yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think they'll stick the course with Cody and Roman.
Oh yeah,
and it'll be something surrounding that. I don't think he's taking anyone's spot, but Punk and Cody is. Oh, sorry, I want to see as well. At some point, just knocked my mic over there. But
we haven't got a loon in the room. That's a massive help. Who isn't going to change things at the last minute? There isn't that kind of person who says, we're gonna have this happen. That's not going to happen, because if Adam Pearce tries it, he's going to be told to fuck off out the room. Bruce Pritchard tries it.
1-on-1, there you go. Get the gold bomb master back together. A couple of Chicago legends are up against each other, Punk and Pearce. I'm actually looking forward to them interacting on TV. Also, Nick Aldis. That was a weird point of SmackDown. Like I was watching it, it was like Pete Dunne followed by Pretty Deadly, followed by Nick Aldis. So I was like, in a bizarro world, this could have been what WWE UK was or NXT UK was. Instead, it's just SmackDown on a given Friday now. What a world we live in now. Not that Pete Dunne was doing much interesting, but still.
Yeah, Butch turned on him. I found that out from the dad who's into wrestling. Who goes for one of the fans who I'm assuming he'll be Wrestle Talk. What culture that would be? You know, the kind of a lot of the places where he would hear about it, and he was he was telling me, he turned heel on him. I was like, Luke Menzies, and I thought, okay, is he going to use a normal name like a regular human being? That'd be a good place to start. Can we call Pete Dunne again? So at least it's a fucking name.
I think that's coming. Yeah. You know, Triple H is going to work that out at some point. But while we're talking WWE, and it's a good segue into our next stuff. And Kazuchika Okada headed to WWE, maybe, sort of, kind of. Weird story, this one.
He might be Punk's opponent.
But Sports Illustrated covering an Okada story is kind of wild in itself. Might tell you what the source is on the Okada story that's been doing the rounds over the last few days, JP. But yeah, apparently, according to SI, Okada's set to become a free agent in 2024, as his contract expires at the end of January, as you helpfully put in our show notes earlier. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So there's every other New Japan wrestler's contracted in January. But this one does feel a little bit different. One, that the story's made it to this point. Two, that WWE are a potential suitor, like Dave Meltzer was saying it on his radio show, that like there's always been interest, but they actually feel like they might get him this time. There's always going to be the AEW interest, but like we always when we were talking about Ospreay, it's like hopefully we got it across. We know Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Cool. Like if I run a wrestling company, I'd want to, but it doesn't necessarily mean like there's space for him. You know, maybe. He's an exceptional case and you just force it in regardless, but there's still a conversation to be had of where he actually fits in the grand scheme of things, even if you do probably want to make that work. Okada's that times 10, you know, at one point the best wrestler in the world. I'm not sure if I still believe that anymore, but you know, maybe I've just got a little bit bored of him the last couple of years, but he feels like he'd be surplus to requirements for AEW as well. But I think it's just generally the fact that it's even a talking point. You know, there's all kinds going on with New Japan right now. Yeah, nobody talks about Tag League. All people complain about is the new NJPW World player being a complete piece of shit. There's a lot of like strife backstage. You know, Kevin Kelly, leaving is quite a notable one recently, and there are little murmurings you hear about, you know, things not being great from a money point of view in Japan for the foreign workers, and just generally maybe the business side of things isn't where you'd want it to be with New Japan. All of that together actually does present like it's coming from Sports Illustrated, but it feels like a bit of a clickbait story. But I don't know, is there smoke to this fire, JP, with all of that said?
I think there is. I'm not very surprised. The story that we'd always been told with Okada, and in terms of what his contract, that he was the one person who was signed to a long-term contract. Mm. But if we look at this and we're realistically, from his perspective, in many ways, it's Harry Kane at Tottenham Hotspur. Mm. He's done everything he can do there. He's never going to be getting like the big kind of recognition because it's still ultimately the kind of you know, big fish, small pond, he says in his best slagging off Spurs type way.
Spoken like a true Arsenal fan.
Oh, exactly. He says, yeah, who fucking scraped a winner over Luton tonight, 4-3, which that'll be the first thing I'm looking at in bed is those fucking highlights. And what the hell happened there? But do I think he's going to go? I mean, Justin Barrasso has a habit of this where there's big stories that end up going to him. And it's partly because it's the platform, it's Sports Illustrated. And when it happens in this way, you think to yourself, okay, this is going to be something that's big. I think he looks at WWE. You've got to remember that that TNA experience he went through, it kind of scarred him, like in terms of like coming over. But it also, in many ways, it kind of made him probably a bit more like kind of hard-nosed to what kind of worker he wants to be, wanted to be in New Japan. But he's done everything in New Japan. And he holds pretty much all of the records. And he already is a kind of legend. And he's 36. And if you think to himself, he does 5 years at a regular 7-figure salary, he can sort out dates. Like, it's a big deal. And WWE are going to be treated, this is the first time we'd be coming in with somebody treating him like with a proper level of respect, that there wouldn't be this cloud of the promo. Do I think it'd automatically work? No. Because as we've seen, like I thought when they signed Shinsuke Nakamura, a lot of us thought, oh, Christ, this is like a real, you know, imagine there was a time when the Good Brothers leaving New Japan and you thought, oh, no, this is going to be trouble for them. They coped fine. And sometimes it brings out the best in New Japan. And I think it's going to move them, it's just going to move them to like forcing them to use the younger guys who they've threatened to use for a long time. And
feels like it's happening already. Feels like they're making that move.
Because my prediction would be Naito beats Sanada for the belt, and then Yota Tsuji pretty much beats Naito for the belt at the same way that like Okada beat Tanahashi, and you get into that stage, and we'll get Shota Umino into the mix, and you might get your Ren Naritas and the various other people that they kind of brought through, which is something they've needed to do for a long time in terms of refreshing their own roster, and they can't offer that money, and I think they creatively need it. New Japan for something like this, and Okada needs a creative challenge. It's just him going to AEW. There's always, I don't like the off ramp say that Ospreay has of he can work New Japan. In some ways, I kind of no. You want to see a wrestler kind of put like a nail in that. Like that's their bit of the career done. And in many ways, him going back there every once in a while, it doesn't feel like has he ever really left. And in AEW, it's too packed, and like this, and that's my overall issue with it is, whereas in WWE, given who they are, I think it's a better move for him. I mean, I said the same thing about Will Ospreay, but it turned out him living in the UK, and maybe he doesn't want to leave Japan, and he doesn't need to. There's all the kind of personal stuff that comes into it, and maybe AEW will offer him that kind of deal as well. But I think this is as good if he's ever going to go to WWE, he should go now.
Yeah.
But I think he's leaving New Japan. Yeah, I don't think these stories come out for no apparent reason, and I think he should leave.
It's interesting because I can see both sides on it. Like, you can get into like, will Okada actually be a fit on Week to Week TV? I don't know, not based on his presentation. Like, it was like any of the angles he did for the Forbidden Door shows. It was just, he was like this awkward, gangly, you know, non-English speaking guy, just bloke wandering out in his white t-shirt and his blue jeans. Looked a bit like Punk at Survivor Series, but less cool. It was just like, you take him out of that presentation and, you know, the weaknesses do show. Now, on that note, like, I can see it both ways. I think on the one hand, you kind of want the good guys to win, or at least what we've traditionally called the good guys in AEW. And like, you know, you want an Ospreay. We want to still see him have the best matches he can have. And most likely that's in AEW. He goes to WWE, might have a better career. He might be, dare I say it, based on current evidence. Might even get booked better, but we all saw what happened with Ricochet, so let's maybe, you know, Punk breaks a little bit. But, you know, just from a smart fan wants to see good matches point of view, it's clearly a win for the good guys, Ospreay going to AEW. And there's also, at least from that point of view, the win of he's still going to do New Japan and do the big matches. If just from a pure fan point of view, I want to see that. Same would probably go for Okada, although, yeah, again, it just all appeals that little bit less. But there is a point to what you're saying. Like, although that's the obvious benefit, the negative is you don't have that full cutoff point. It doesn't feel fresh. Ospreay in AEW because he's kind of already been in AEW. Him in there full time is a different, or more full time, is a different perspective, and he can be a bigger part of All In next year. So at least there's that. But it's not that fresh, is it? Especially if he is still doing New Japan. So I do see your point, and that would be the case with Okada as well. But it goes back to what we were saying, I think, either on the weekend show or on last week's Spotlight, and I was saying on the show with Steph, Triple H is very clearly, and whether it's working in practice or not, because I did get a bit of a pushback to those comments, like he's clearly trying to, it's a point he's doing on purpose, making sure that the Hispanic talents are treated as individuals and booked competently. And, even stuff like little stuff like, Damian Priest leading into that side of his personality, old man Vince McMahon would probably not have him, wouldn't be allowed to call it senior Money in the Bank. You know what I mean? That wouldn't, no, you're supposed to be a goth. You can't also, talk about, your heritage and stuff like that. You're one or the other, in old man Vince's line, but you've got like a laundry list of names across the roster, some of which have been, like the LWO ganged up into stables together. So there is that element of it, but there's a lot of Spanish-speaking talent on the shows that are unique characters and pushed well, and given they're not just generic stereotypes. Same things kind of happening with the Japanese talent in WWE. For a Tozawa, clearly is a caricature. Nakamura is probably on the more positive end of a bit of a caricature. He's basically doing Great Muta, but he is being protected and booked. You only have to look at the women's division and look at, the talent across that, like an Asuka who's been pushed for a number of years. And like, there's a number of them there who have been, relatively protected and relatively given, a bit of a stage to be a star. They're doing that on purpose. I think maybe that is with a view to get more talent like an Okada to come over, with a view to Triple H always liked that idea, didn't he? It wasn't just an NXT thing. I want an NXT UK and I want NXT Europe and I want NXT Japan. He is a man who sees things in a more global way, I think, than Vince McMahon does. And maybe he doesn't necessarily want to do those NXT silos anymore, but he wants those global stars. He wants those regional global stars in those different places. It's the Fast and Furious thing. Like, why was that the biggest film in world history? Because it had a diverse cast that represented the world that we live in. It's not just 10 Paul Walkers. You know what I mean? It's a smorgasbord of different races, sexes, and people from different places, and that appealed to a more of a worldwide like demographic. I think that's absolutely a Triple H business plan, and probably a Nick Khan plan as well. And I think Okada fit in that perfectly, and I think they are. For all, I can't necessarily see him on Raw and SmackDown and imagine what that looks like, but it's not as ridiculous a proposition as it was under Vince McMahon WWE.
That's it. Like under Vince McMahon WWE, that wouldn't have happened. All of these things, and they are, even though they're all rooted in fundamentally like business and capitalism and the business of making money through the use of diversification and niche markets and everything else. It's still it's a sensible business decision. Like, it's the most sensible business decision. And you try selling that to TKO, this is what my bigger plan is. They're going to look at it and go, yeah, because what have UFC done? They run loads of fucking different places all over the world. And they're like, yeah, this is going to completely work. And it also explains, as much as we don't like it, the booking of Nakamura. Of like, actually, we're using Nakamura in a consistent basis, in a strong way, in top line programs. As much as the matches will end up disappointing and everything else, that's like a come and get me to Okada, of like kind of throwing that into the mix of like, look, this isn't, AEW is not the only place where you can go to, and you would do that, and it's a natural kind of like starting place as well for them to be able to, and the way that they'll push like. These two met in a tournament final. They won't mention which tournament, and the match they'll have won't be anywhere near as good as that. And like you say, the week to week and the reality of Okada in WWE isn't something that's particularly exciting. But the idea of them getting him, I think, again, this is one where they lost Ospreay pretty much because of a heart over head decision. Here, I think this is going to be one where there's going to be like, no, actually, we should really make a play for this guy, because it's a big into a market where they don't really do very well. like in the scheme of things. If you think of how much like wrestling is consumed in Japan, they don't sell out Sumo Hall. They don't sell it. Like, they don't run Budokan. They don't run the Dome. They've helped out a few times for that type of stuff, but they've never really caught on. And I think also as well, it gives them the chance to produce, like, again, it's all incremental stuff, but taking away that one, or that smaller part of the hardcore fan base who are going to want to see what Okada is doing if they manage to get there, which then in turn hurts their competition. So they'll look at this as being like, this is like a common sense business decision. I mean, I'm talking about as if the place he's going to end up out of all of this is going to be WWE. It's just that you sort of think about him going to AEW, and all of a sudden it's like, dare I say it, my heart sinks. Like, I kind of, think to myself, well, where's he going to... He has the great matches with a few other people. He'll be in isolation, but when he's appeared on TV, he's never been used to it. He's just like, a random tag match, and it's Okada, and guess what? He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And you're like, really? That's how we end up with...
that. You'll get shown that. You get told it. Like, that's the thing, innit? And this is all part of like the current war that's going on in the background, as well as just black and white. Will they move numbers? What are the ratings? Like, there is a public perception battle going on. WWE is winning a lot of these battles. Ospreay was a win for AEW, but this would be another win for Triple H. They get to be the good guys again because they're, oh my god, it's like when it was it's his game plan. It's what he did with NXT. Like, did you actually believe Fergal Devitt was ever going to be a mainstream WWE star? Did I ever believe that El Generico and Kevin Steen were going to be big stars in WWE? Triple H made those things happen, and it got him untold goodwill and flower baskets from Reddit with a W. Like, and he's doing that. Like, I mean, it links into like another story that's doing the rounds at time of recording, like Sean Ross Sapp said on his audio, I believe, tonight about Mercedes, another alleged New Japan star, and also alleged AEW. I feel like it was a fever dream. AEW star say it was a fever dream as all seeing her in the crowd at Wembley in a boot allegedly. Remember that? That's a real thing that happened this year. But Sean Ross Sapp saying like apparently there's more of a possibility now in his mind of Mercedes / Sasha Banks heading to WWE, at least more so than he thought in August, apparently, which was all in. Apparently, there was a working plan for her to and AEW to work together, and apparently Sean Ross Sapp followed up on that. Has been told there's no active plan for that to happen. That ties in with the little whispers you're hearing, and the fact that Punk was allegedly a big part of Mercedes coming over to AEW and was in conversation with her. He's now on the WWE side. You have to imagine what he's probably told her about what it's like working in AEW. And all of a sudden, I think we're in a different landscape in a lot of ways, JP, where it was like AEW was the cool promotion and you wanted your Danielsons and your Punks to go there. And especially fans like us to see them work in a different way than they did in WWE. And that was just a given. I still want that from a work point of view, but like from a fan goodwill point of view, there's probably going to be more pull for her to make peace with Triple H, and more of a guarantee when you look at a Sasha Banks that she'll probably be booked better under Triple H. And the women's division is clearly Triple H's Achilles heel for whatever reason, despite his successes with NXT. With a couple of notable exceptions, he's not really done a great job of booking the WWE women's division. But is it a division with stars? Yes. And is it booked more competently than AEW's? Probably also yes, but it's more of a race to the bottom. But still, yes. She probably might look at it and go, oh, my mates are in WWE. And, Triple H is in charge now and it's going to be different. Maybe it's time for me to go back. If I was a veteran man, I'd say she ends up in WWE rather than AEW at this point.
I think so. And I think she looks at AEW and she goes, okay, is my stock going to fall if I go to AEW? Potentially, yeah. Has the grass been really, truly greener since she's left? Well, I mean, the injury is going to be the thing that mess into it, but it's not like
Fourth of time, though.
Yeah, it did buy her time as much as anything. And in some ways, you wonder if she dodged a bullet, and I wonder if she thinks, did she dodge a bullet throughout all of this? Because it felt like when she left, there was talk of various kind of like behind closed doors lawsuits, NDAs, and the rest of it. Like there was, and it felt like it was like a level of anger about Vince and the Vince problem not being there, and it definitely not being Triple H as being the issue.
Or at least not being in your face.
Yeah,
he's there, but it's the specter of Vince rather than the week to week.
Yeah, and that, but not being there's a massive. Is she going to come in and be booked like she's a big star in a way with her most like kind of recognizable brand name. Yeah. Do you think TKO are going to have issues about her doing acting and stuff in The Mandalorian? No. Guess what? They'll probably fucking embrace it because they should have done all along. But Vince was like, well, it's not a WWE Studios film, so therefore I'm zero interest in it. It doesn't exist in the real world, even if it's part of fucking Star Wars. Like, those kind of things are going to be seen as a big deal. Will it be an embarrassment for AEW? Yeah. But if you're her at the minute and you're thinking, where am I going to make the most money? Where am I going to be better booked? Where is there going to be much more scope for me to do stuff outside of wrestling? You've got to say it's WWE for all of those things.
If you were advising her, what would you say if she came to JP? Where should we go?
WWE.
I'd say it too. That's mad, isn't it? Like 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said that.
Exactly. You look at New Japan, not in a great way. The IWGP Women's Belt, very much an afterthought. Stardom on a downturn, partly because of just the relentless schedule they've been running and all of the injuries. Look at Julia, the person who was going to be the big star. She was going to be wrestling in all of this. Well, Julia's there's a chance she might be off as well. So you get into those kind of things and you think, well, where is this level of big stardom? Is there new faces in the women's division? Like, there's a Rhea Ripley story that you can go to. There's the return of Bianca Belair. There's all the various dynamics with, whether it be with Damage Control or, you know, and obviously the Four Horsewomen, something that they've always wanted to do and go ahead there as well. So there's all of that stuff. You should definitely take credit for that. But it'll be a big black eye to AEW for that to be the case. But then there's the part of me thinks that this has been their get out of jail free cards. We sign people. We sign people to deviate away from problems, like they're bloody Manchester United under the Glazers. And you go, no, sorry, I'm big on the football analogies tonight. You go, no. In some ways, what it forces you, when they've been forced to, AEW, to kind of work with the resources they have, I think it's worked better for them. Julia Hart, and, you know, spoke about, you know, not nowhere near the finished article and whatnot. But in some ways, they want to spend more time concentrating on the likes of her and getting her to a place than spending a fortune on Mercedes, where she's not going to be a prime focus of that show, like, regardless. And you don't have the faith in how the women's division is going to be booked there.
They just wouldn't, would they? We've seen enough evidence. They wouldn't. Like, it would be a layup. It would be a gigantic star coming over. We all thought it was happening around Wembley. It would be the most AEW thing ever. One, for it not to happen. But if it did happen, to fuck it up anyway. Like, she's got to see that. And if she speaks to people like Punk, and if morale is as low in AEW as we're reading, like, I can't imagine there's much pull, really. And she's got it out of system a little bit, being out to WWE and going to Japan and stuff, and it hasn't gone to the full fruition because of her injuries. So that's a bit of a negative, and maybe puts a little bit of doubt in my mind that she still wants to, you know, sow some seeds and work outside of the WWE.
Done a gap year.
Yeah, she kind of had it. It hasn't gone perfectly on a gap year. She had a snowboarding accident, you know, and unfortunately they put her in the boot for a while. But she still had a gap year, you know, and at some point you've got to come back to reality. And I think that's probably going to be reality. As Andy says, it might just turn out it would be the most wrestling thing ever. Punk, Mercedes, Okada, all these people signed for WWE, which is the good guy Triple H brand. And then Vince comes back and he's like, hang on, pal. Yeah. Who are all these people who speak funny? What's going on? What are they doing back here? Get out. Wouldn't shock me, but yeah, genuinely one to keep an eye on. I think the Okada and Mercedes stories, I think, might be quite closely tied. Yeah, look, Ramen says, original plan, Forbidden Door against Saraya. Like, imagine what our review of that match would have been, you know. Doesn't shock me. But yeah, there we go. Nice little rundown of the possible free agents out there right now, JP. On that note, what else we got? We've got a couple of other bits and pieces to talk about. I know you wanted to mention kind of the link to New Japan, as it is an Ospreay subject. Talk a little bit about Rev Pro. Obviously, Uprising is next weekend. Bit of an annoying one. I'm going to be in London that weekend, but I'm still not sure if I'm going to be able to go to the actual show itself. Also, Crystal Palace puts me off a little bit, and I'm a man who's happy to stay in Romford, JP. So, you know, I must have heard bad stories if Crystal Palace has put me off. But you know, we'll see. I don't think things are going to work out, but I am going to be in the area, so you know, let's see what's happening. But yeah, you wanted to talk some Rev Pro, JP, before we get into the other odds and sods of what else we've got?
And I know the big news from this is obviously Will Ospreay surprised the fans by turning up there as well. Building up his match to Gabriel Kidd, which we'll be previewing on the weekend show and then probably reviewing on the Spotlight straight after.
Did he build it up, mate? Because we had a motley crew of people in our Discord who were there live at the show.
Yeah.
They had a lot good to say about some of the matches on the show, but like mostly people were just like, I might leave, like this is fucking shit. Like it was like watching a live chat of people who were in the building fucking hating every minute of that Ospreay promo. But obviously we can talk about that. But yeah, that was it surprised me too when I saw he was there.
It did, and I was following the Discord for it as well. Ewan and Ian and the and the various other comments are on there. It's the one bit of the show I must confess that I've seen him coming in because I've seen the clips of it, but I haven't.
This is good because that's the bit I've seen.
Oh, okay. Did he start slanging off Gabriel Kidd's mum? Is that the route he went down? Oh, for fuck's sake. Yep. Mum jokes. That's where we're at, aren't we?
It was. I don't know if that was the. From my understanding is that that was not the directive he was given for the promo, but Will Ospreay's going to Will Ospreay. I don't know what directive he was given or how much he was told to go down that line, but I watched the Instagram thing today as well. The obvious comeback is it's funny because I mentioned on the pre-show, we talked about our Spotify Unwrapped. I listen to a load of hip hop podcasts, and I don't even really listen to that much modern hip hop. And in that world, this happens where podcast. We should get into this game, JP. Podcasters who are beefing with each other will be on Instagram Live, just shouting at each other, and everyone's in the comments going, "Oh, go on! I want my favorite podcaster to win." And bigger than that, it happens with rappers as well. I've seen that beef between rappers kind of come to a head on Instagram, or just people in general who it's a thing people do in this generation of media. And I think that's what Gabriel Kidd and Ospreay were trying to ape, that type of when they come together on an Instagram Live and have a row about that Ospreay promo at the Rev Pro show, which was kind of gross because he's talking about Gabriel Kidd's mental health issues and breakdowns and stuff like that. And it's do we really want to hear about this? And then the thing is, Gabe Kidd's not that likable either, so he's not sympathetic. So you're watching these two fucking grown men put on a bit of an accent and just shout at each other like they're a couple of scallies on the street, and it's just you just come out of it going, I don't like either of them two. Whether the counter argument is in the hip hop world when I talk about this happening, it created interest. Maybe interest the wrong way, but attention. I heard it talked about today. More people know the match is taking place now, I think. People tuned in to see the Ruck, and people have been talking about it on Twitter today, not in very favorable terms. And, neither of them, like I say, came across well. Neither of them comes across as the babyface in this feud. I presume on the night, a London big Crystal Palace crowd is going to cheer for Ospreay regardless, so maybe it doesn't really matter. But they both come across as very unlikable cunts, and it just wasn't. It's not really an enjoyable experience. Hearing, there's lines you can throw in that are about real life, but the way Ospreay went with it just showed, for me, poor judgment, which is the story of Will Ospreay's career, isn't it? He's about to sign his big contract with AEW. We presume he's on his retirement run from the British Indies. He's very Terry Funk, so who knows? He'll still be running a BritRes retirement run in 2030, but allegedly that's what we're headed towards. And he's using that last limited
promotion in a year's time. We'll talk about that. We'll just go, it's fucking mental.
But I'm sure there is good in Ospreay, and I'm sure he wants to put, because Gabe Kidd was his young boy at points, and he mentioned in the promo and the back and forth that they got links going back to What Culture Pro Wrestling. Speaking of What Culture and the like, so I'm sure he's doing it, and he probably, if I know anything about Ospreay's place in the world, I'm sure this was his choice to work Gabe Kidd at this big Rev Pro show, and he wants to put him on the map. But the way he went about it is just typical Ospreay, really, and just poor judgment is the word.
I mean, we're talking about a match that really should be the big match of a show at in front of a big crowd at Crystal Palace, and instead it kind of sounds like a shouting match between a couple of squaddies outside of Wetherspoons. And I don't know if that's necessarily that's the kind of stuff that I want to see, because that's how it comes across. No.
What a great analogy.
Like, from everything I hear of this, I just think, yeah, no, I walk away from that stuff if I see that in real life. I don't pay money to fucking see it, like, out of any of that. So, like, this is, and without that kind of level of control, he's gonna just say whatever, and he tends to go lowest common denominator pretty much straight away, doesn't he? He doesn't, like, you know, because again, like you've said, there are much simpler storylines that work better within wrestling. Of like, you're still my young boy, bruv. He could have just said on an endless loop, and it would have worked better than this. And instead, it's just like, you know, it's just like it's two blokes in tracksuits having a row on the street, and you expect one of them to take the top off at some point. It's like, we've seen this before, and it's not fun to see. Like, I've no kind of like I don't particularly have any interest necessarily in that as well. Whereas this should be part of, you know, what Will Ospreay's year as 2023 has been, which is I'm gonna wrestle a load of young wrestlers. I'm gonna have the best matches of their careers to date, like setting the template of where they are, and that's what we really should be talking about with this. And Gabriel Kidd going, no, I'm gonna push you, like, instead, like, because I know the kind of weaknesses and stuff. There's a much more sensible side of it. But then we're talking about these two, and I think a kind of cool, lucid, calm business heads. That's not what goes on with these two.
Steph says we went into Burger King to get a drink on the way home last night, and there was a group of Scally lads trying to start a fight with a group of Scally girls, which was lovely to see. It was like that, genuinely was. That's what it felt like. And, you know, maybe the majority of people aren't going to care. I think Ospreay is going to be in Crystal Palace. It'll be like a York Hall crowd, won't it? Where we have these conversations, and then, you know, they react in a very different way to what we do. He's going to be treated like the biggest homecoming babyface ever, and they're not going to care. They said some things about Gabe Kidd's more, you know, poo-pooed mental health in the way only Ospreay can, but, you know, and that probably goes to the AEW conversation. Like, you know, Steph and Will are having the conversation in the chat there. Like, yeah, absolutely. He's going to go to AEW, and he's not going to be reined in. And the Americans are going to think it's the fucking coolest thing ever. Oh, he said, bruv. Oh, he talks like the characters in Top Boy. Is in this great proper British culture we're getting on TV, and we're all at home just cringing. But are we what matters? You know, maybe not.
Except the food he'll talk about isn't, in fact, like kind of large quantities of Class A drugs, but in fact, literally the food on the table that's being stolen in classic wrestling fashion. Food, bruv. But yeah, this
God
is.
Looks good, though. God looks good. Other than
it
that,
does. Like,
but, you know,
looking at it,
that's really good.
And I think, you know, when watching, and I managed to watch some of the live stream as well for this, so that's kind of, well, like, I managed to pretty much see like a lot of the second half while I was doing various kind of odds
stuff at the minute, isn't it?
Odds, yeah. Well, watching the that wild like Man City Spurs game, like, and this was on at the same time. This was on at the same time. I was like, this fucking batshit, this stuff here, and it was like a good card. And I think that's the thing about Rev Pro from a booking perspective, is they deliver what you want. I think, again, and it's an old thing, the criticisms with Rev Pro are going to always be from that technical perspective. I'm going to talk very briefly about an indie promotion that actually gets some of those things kind of right. And I think that's very much the next stage in the direction we want to do. Because you look at this, like Uprising Con, we'll talk about it in more detail when we get around to it on the weekend show. But Michael Oku, Zach Gibson, that's like a cracking like match, a way of positioning Zach Gibson in there as well. Backed up with Ospreay Kid. Volador Jr. on there with Trent Seven, the rematch of Jacobs versus Ishii, which is looking like this is the like Luke Jacobs proper audition tape, where you'd be thinking of him getting that big win there at last. Connor Mills, Leon Slater, the crowning of Leon Slater, who you're going to want to be using more because of the fact he's going to be signed to Impact as well. And I think that's something that Impact are the kind of promotion that will definitely acknowledge the fact of, oh, he's the British Cruiserweight champion. So we're going to be using him into the mix as well. Got Danny Luna versus Alex Windsor, and I do want to give like a shout out to the stuff I did see that on there in terms of the matches. That the three-way women's match was as good a women's match as I've seen in Rev Pro for quite a while, which was the Mercedes Blaze, Danny Luna, and I'm forgetting who was the other person who was in that match. If I just bear with me for 1 second, Kanji as well, because it built up a few stories like Kanji and Sapphire Reeds, who came out and attacked, and then, you know, it was just kind of all action. I thought, well, that's
nice to see, but it did. Again, like you the people we speak to who follow, this stuff a bit closer, like an Ian Hamilton or a Sophia, or like the other people we know who are like Gadget that who were at the show. It felt maybe not them specifically, but like I don't think people were that positive on Ogogo coming into Rev Pro. I thought that was a big story. Like I guess he is damaged goods now because AEW have done fuck all with him for 2, maybe 3 years, like while he's been there, and he's been over here and he's done, he's done stuff with the Knights, hasn't he? He's done WAW and he's done Progress to very little fanfare. Like we were all at the Copper Box, weren't we? And him and QT Marshall were on that Progress show in front of 200 people. Like they've not used him relatively good at all. Like they haven't got the most out of him, but like I still think there's value there. Maybe I'm biased because a couple of years ago, me and Steph met him at an AEW pay-per-view viewing party and had a big conversation with him about Rev Pro at that point. And I don't think he really knew of it as a company, but like he seemed well up for it. And I know Steph introduced him to some people at Rev Pro as well. And just in general, like he seemed well up for it from our point of view. But there's always the problem with I would guess the problem there was AEW rather than Rev Pro. Why that never came to fruition. And like I say, we're a couple of years down the line with some damage to his brand, but he's still Anthony Ogogo. He's still a relatively mainstream star over here, to the point where if he appears on TV over here, they don't talk about him as an AEW star. They talk about him as himself, as Anthony Ogogo. They talk about the
as Olympic medalist.
The Olympics, like that's what they talk about. I still think he's a big name. I honestly like. I'm fantasy booking it, but I'm like, I'd take him in. If the build for this was to all build to him in RKJ in like a faux boxing match at York Hall, I honestly think that'd be good. Like people don't think about him in those terms anymore, but I still think it's a genuine.
Definitely get some good use out of it. Match wasn't up to snuff. It was just it was like fucking squash and a few simple spots, but
was it like
I'm all right with that. It was the Lycos.
Just Lycos.
Yeah.
Weird that.
I remember we saw him without his mask once. We were in that Jack's place. I'm sure we were in there before we saw him walk around. I was like, there's Lycos. He had that bright blonde hair about him.
We'll see him at North doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Get the mask off Joe Nelson as well. Just get them away from each other. It's might get them bookings, but it's probably not good long term for both of them really. We'll see what he does outside of it. But yeah, we'll see them at North this weekend. So I'm glad to see them there. I'll see them at Uprising. So yeah, the only other development out of the show, obviously Robbie X and Spike Trevay looks like it's been set up with a challenge there for that on the 229 show as well. Did you not see the main event tag that people were raving about?
I did see that actually, and it was. I like the Greedy Souls and Sunshine Machine have really improved as well. And considering the other tag match, the issue that we'd had on that was like they'd done a whole story like Mark Andrews getting like kind of like an injury and stuff. So it was weird because they were in there against like what was it, Maverick Mayhew and Danny Black. So it wasn't like it was like kind of like an exciting. Like kind of time of it so that was like a bit weird, but I thought it was like a very fun tag, the kind of tag that we would like almost like expect. But Greedy Souls have become like a decent solid team in all of that, and it feels like they're the heel team to kind of go back to when you around the place. But yeah, enjoyable stuff. I wouldn't go berserk on it. I thought it was like a good tag. Maybe I'd missed something in all of the mix because, like I say, I wasn't expecting Spurs to come back and get a 3-all, bust my fucking acca and ruin some of my fantasy league. But then I saw City drop points, so it was like kind of like testing times, mate.
There we go. But yeah, if I can help it, maybe I'll be at a Crystal Palace in a couple of weeks. But yeah, we'll be previewing that on next weekend's weekend show. And yeah, of course, all roads lead to speaking of North Wrestling at the weekend.
Yes.
These cards we'll be going through on the weekend show, and I've got plenty to say about it. Let's save it for that. I've been tricked here, JP, into seeing Lana Austin and the Lycosses, but hey ho. Anything else on Rev Pro or don't know, anything else you've been watching?
I'll be very brief with a couple of these things. I did watch, because I was speaking about like kind of indie production as much as anything else. I saw a bit of Wrestling Revolver, which was mainly, it was their season finale is what they called the show. I suspect it isn't because wrestling doesn't work that way. We joked about it on the weekend show, Clive, Iowa and the Horizon Event Center. They made it look fucking cool. partly because of just the layout of it. They had a proper kind of entranceway. The FITE TV like replay had like in-match replays during the show. The commentary team had Matthew Raywell on it, Vader Scott was on it, and some bloke called Borg. I can't remember his surname. He was all right. He was perfectly fine. He was kind of inoffensive. There's a look about Revolver that is interesting, and I think other indie promotions should really take something from it. Now, probably helps when you've got, like, I mean, Sami Callihan's doing, I imagine, a day-to-day booking, but Moxley is obviously a big part in that promotion as well. Bork Torkelson. Now, I'm assuming that's not his real name. I'd be astonished by that.
Dale Torborg, the demon. Kiss Demon. Is he back?
He is, mate. He's doing commentating on Wrestling Revolver now. Oh, Kiss Demon. Didn't he like the old Dale Torborg? He liked the old baseball, didn't he? He was like a pitching coach and the rest of it.
That was his other gimmick, wasn't it?
How the fuck do I remember that?
MVP.
Yeah, very, very kind of like strange for that. But it feels that PWG gap, particularly as PWG is on hiatus, as we've spoken about, as you know, the various things going on, you know, with Super Dragon at the moment. But it looked good. They had like a mesh fencing for them to walk down as well, which made it look good. So it was like presentation, and even though the lights were too bright, they're two massive sets of lights, so the ring looked illuminated. So even though the rest of the arena, the Horizon, I don't imagine the Horizon Event Center to look fucking spectacular, but it looked as good as it's going to look here. Had very big ECW arena vibes to it. And again, it's full of what you'd imagine are the kind of standard indie dream matches interspersed with some local workers, some of their guys who do the storyline stuff. So that's how you end up with Emi Sakura versus Killer Kelly, or Masaki Mochizuki defeating Mike Bailey with a weird kind of botched finish that bust Mike Bailey open, which again was fine. I'm like, this is the thing about the wrestling itself. These matches are kind of all right. If you want to know what Ortiz is up to when he's not in AEW, which is a lot of the fucking time, when he's here, he defeated Brian Keith. Again, a decent match, but nothing kind of like spectacular there.
Why is Kip Sabian getting time and Ortiz and Santana aren't? What's that about?
Makes no fun. And fucking Santana was at House of Glory at the weekend as well.
Yeah,
obviously the other end of the country from these lads, but that was like kind of like slightly strange. And Grizzle Young Veterans are there against the Rascals, but it was Zachary Wentz and Myron Reed as opposed to Trey Miguel there as well. And it was interesting seeing them in that environment. And they came out to what was it? I Am the Antichrist, Sex Pistols. But they kept on playing it underneath Zach Gibson trying to deliver his promo. So he ended up cutting it kind of short. He didn't really get to say much, which is a bit of a disappointment. It's like, fuck me. If there's one thing I've wanted to see in all of this.
Hey, we'll see him in Newcastle.
We'll see him in Newcastle, and he'll be doing that promo, and he'll be slagging off Newcastle. I imagine he's going to bring up... Oh, he's going to bring up Saudi owners, mate. Imagine the sports wars. Imagine the football shit he's going to be saying to get a reaction in Newcastle. It's going to be fucking glorious. Going to be loving it. You know, at least we don't love our owners, but at least they're proper fucking owners. There'll be all this kind of stuff. He'll be loving it. That was a terrible accent. I'm sorry. The one accent I try to actively avoid around you because it sounds so bad. But in this kind of, it's very much like the overall thing with Wrestling Revolver is it is the super indie of choice at this stage. It's kind of like the slightly hot product in the way that West Coast Pro is, which I didn't get around to seeing. They had another show, partly because it was just like, well, it's Kenta doing some CM Punk trolling and looking kind of bored during his match, which is kind of the way that Kenta is when he's over in the US and in the UK. But there is stuff from this aesthetically, I think, to take away from the show. It's like an easy watch that feels kind of professional enough. And I'm only going on this show. There's other stuff they've done that probably looks absolutely dog shit. But I thought, okay, this is a product I could easily see again. And they've got access to the big enough names. And if you're AEW with all of these people who don't get used, fucking send them here. For the love of God. Like, it gives them something to do. It gives them reps. Send them out to places like this because it might help not only in turn sell a few tickets and boost the crowds here, but it certainly makes the shows that bit more interesting as well. Like, you know, what the fuck is Lee Johnson doing in AEW? It's so important. He can't be here in this place. Like, just
they need deals. Like, it goes to the ROH conversation we had before that Joey Janela brought up about like making it a sub indie. same goes for the guys. Like the amount of guys who get signed by it was a conversation on Twitter this week. The amount of guys who get signed by AEW, like we've said on the podcast before, if it was 2002, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, and Bryan Danielson would be starting to get hot, and Tony had them on Rampage. And like I'll say there's balance to that because there's positives to that too. In that if AEW existed in 2002, who knows? Brian XL, Xavier, Amazing Red even might have been a bigger star than they were and might have had a different career path than they did. So we're getting that. But the negative we're getting is, you might get people like that, like a Lee Johnson or a Lee Moriarty or even a Wheeler Yuta as prominently as he is used, Daniel Garcia. Nick Wayne's a big one. He shouldn't be on telly. As much as I'm enjoying the Christian act, he shouldn't be anyway. I shouldn't know, other than watching the indies, what Nick Wayne looks like on AEW TV for another 6 years. Like, I shouldn't even find that out. Shouldn't find out the answer to that question. I don't want to see his development at this early stage happen on TV. Even in Action Andretti, I don't really think there's much there, but he probably doesn't belong at AEW right now. Like, those types of guys, if they could get signed to like some kind of like Chelsea type deal where they get signed, but like they're on the indies, and for all intents and purposes, we think of them as indie workers for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They go to Japan, they do a couple of tours. Everybody would be better off.
Vitesse Revolver. That's what they need to become, though, don't they? This is where you send players to. Arsenal had it. We called it Beveren in Belgium. Load of lads went in there. Unfortunately, we got Emmanuel Aboué back from them, and he was a fucking piss taker, that bloke. So, yeah, it is like definitely what they should be doing, and it's the simplest way of getting reps in front of large audiences, in front of proper audiences as well, and for them to being able to improve, and they're getting fucking used. I mean, that's why, like, not sending them over here where they're going to get so much from that, from if they were being used in a Rev Pro. Anthony Ogogo, him sat in a studio once a year at Wembley. Well, you might as well have him in Rev Pro. Got him fucking under contract. Get him used. Get all of them used. Send bloody Keith Lee over here. Like, he'll probably enjoy himself for a bit. You know what I mean? There's all of these things. It's like a much better way of using them rather than like kind of mothballing them, as it feels at this stage, in kind of reserve team limbo, aka Rampage.
Been a great spot like this. No matter what the subject is, we find a way to have a go at AEW. Really enjoyed the Continental Classic this week. Sorry, Tony. And thanks for the Wembley numbers. They help us out in the algorithms. Anything more on that show or anything else?
The only other thing, you know what? The other stuff I didn't actually really sort of get round to seeing. There was stuff like there was a Stardom big show apparently, but I mean, it's a bit of a shit show. Their build up to like Wrestle Queendom. So I've not really I'm not bothered to get round to seeing that. I suppose the other kind of thing, I mean, we've not mentioned Tag League. Should we even mention? We'll mention we get to the finals. Who gives a shit? Like, really, who gives a shit? Yeah, do it on that as well. And Kota Ibushi's in Noah. Cool.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like,
meant to mention that when we were talking about Mercedes and Okada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can Marufuji carry Ibushi, or can Ibushi carry Marufuji? That's going to be the question, isn't it? Like, I don't know which way around that is in 2023.
That's it. It's just going to be interesting if he shifts a few tickets. I think that's the only kind of interest I have from a business perspective. But it's also the way that Marufuji has become this. A lot of people, it's like, well, we haven't got Muto anymore. So in essence, he becomes the de facto legend of Noah, as he should be. I've no issue with that. And they all want to wrestle him. And it's like, yeah, in many ways, it's the best use of him at this point in his career. And Ibushi goes over there. It's like, fine, whatever. I can't pretend to be remotely excited about it. But it's just the way of the wrestling world. This would have been like a massive story in years to come. Instead, it's fitting in the last 30 seconds of this show. Probably is where Kota Ibushi should be until he fucking proves himself.
Agreed. Well, speaking of the last 30
Anarchy in
seconds,
the UK. For some reason, the fucking title of the song completely lost on me, but there we go.
Well, speaking of the last 30 seconds of the show, I suppose that does take us to the end of the show. I'm going to say that again. Like I say, it is the beginning of another month. Thank you, patrons who've stuck with us through this year. It's been a great year on the Patreon. I'm sure we'll be talking lots about it towards year end, but we're going to end it the right way in December. JP, going to be lots going on for anybody who missed the plugs early on. Say you're just tuning into the YouTube replay or something like that. Hello, people. No, we're not live on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm sorry. YouTube doesn't make that very clear that there's a premiere and a live showing on YouTube look very similar, but they are different. We're not live. This was recorded on Tuesday night. Sorry to break kayfabe. There's always someone in the chat, JP, trying to have a conversation with us or replying to something, and I always feel so bad. I'm like, hey, sorry, here I am. That's not actually me right now. I'm currently sat in my undies doing my office job. Sorry, but yeah, if you're watching that, what else we got? What else we got going on this month, JP?
Well, it's an incredible month. Just to reiterate in all of this, all of the stuff that we've got coming up at the moment, as you've brought up on screen here. We have, I mean, we've got our Observe This Power Slam 1994 special, which I'm really looking forward to as well. That's a weird kind of that's basic. I love it when you mess around with that format bit.
Get me to play with this.
But I also have to say as well, brilliant graphic, particularly the news updates, which I know is not always the place to go to, but Phil Mitchell wearing a Santa's hat in and of itself is fucking awesome. So yes, we've got we're giving the Observe This treatment to the first edition of Power Slam 1994. Basically depending on when it arrives in the post. For me, as an early Christmas present to myself, the best kind of Christmas present. We're going to be at North Wrestling at the weekend. We're all going to that. So hopefully for those of you going to be along, come along, have a drink with us, have a chin wag. We'll watch North Wrestling. You'll get to hear our preview of that on Friday. That'll be interesting. And that was obviously selected by King of the Mountain, Carl Gack, as well. So thanks so much for that, Carl. Really looking forward to that as well. We've got the Christmas Film Club. We're going to have a Christmas movie poll. I know there's some suggestions in the Discord. As per usual, I might add, some of you are a bit cruel and you like to suggest some shit for us to watch. So, like, we'll be going through that with a bit more fine-tooth comb, because that's how we end up with WCW 2000s when we give patrons the choice. So if you like the idea of us being tortured by them, that happens quite a lot. Always got to mention it. Two staples for like the end of the year for us. We've got the GRAPPL Awards, which will be up on the free feed, but for the patrons, we have the Crappies. So always awesome, and that -5 stars to go into old Dave Meltzer talk in there as well. What's the stuff we hated? Guess what? There's more than one thing. It'll be interesting. I'm fascinated to know the way the awards go in general, because it's going to be wild from how it's been from previous years. I think that AEW domination, that this might be the year that finally comes to an end. And we like to wrap up the year with the Ask GRAPPL Christmas Spectacular. We have loads of guests calling in, with even some listeners as well. We see it, we have a drink.
Who knows calling this year, do you think? Who knows?
Anthony Agogo. I'll throw that in there as well. You fucking should do as well. But yeah, we've got that coming up, so really looking forward to that. And because the wrestling doesn't stop, we're going to be having spotlights. We're going to be having weekend previews. We've got the second episode of Retro coming towards the end with Matty and Gareth. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the news updates. So if you want to see Phil and Grant appear in your feed, definitely the place to go. Patreon.com/GRAPPL and go to YouTube.com/@GRAPPL, because YouTube's weird and chucks an @ into the mix, where /GRAPPL would have been a lot easier. But hey, I'm not in charge of it, and they seem to be making a good few quid of it. So they're doing something right. So yeah, go there.
Well, yeah, if you lasted this long, thank you very much. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who just watch on the free version of YouTube. But yeah, so we've got YouTube memberships out there if you fancy joining us on that side, as well as Patreon memberships. There's all kinds going on, as JP's just said. So yeah, any support, we much appreciate it, especially this time of year. But yeah, if you can't extend to that, maybe throw us a like on YouTube, throw us a subscribe on YouTube. I'm trying to get we're a very new YouTube channel, so I'm trying to get the subs up this year. So help us out if you can. But yeah, on that note, JP's covered it all. We will be back next week for Spotlight. We'll all be at North Wrestling at the weekend, so maybe see some of you in Newcastle. Observe This will be coming up, and plenty more where that come from. But yeah, on that note, we'll catch you all again for Spotlight next week.
Bye.
Good night.